This week on WeAreBoard Podcast, our WAB Thoughts are all about those perfectly snappy, easy to teach, and endlessly replayable gems we call filler games. Whether you're waiting on a late arrival or closing out a game night, we're sharing our go-to picks that punch way above their weight class. In our Spotlight of the Week, we explore how AI is being used to generate artwork, narratives, and other creative assets in the world of board games. From box covers to lore and card design, we take a look at how these tools are already influencing game production, and where we think it might be heading. Then, we head into our brand spanking new BMW segment, where we break down some of the freshest, buzziest new releases that have caught our attention. There's a lot of cardboard heat coming down the pipeline, and we're not holding back our takes. Kick back, press play, and let's head into another episode of WeAreBoard Podcast. Welcome back. This is the WeAreBoard Podcast. We are alive and well, and we're here again. So tell me, Aaron, what have you been up to today?
Been chilling, baby, living large, been working out, but been working out that brain, playing some good BGs all week.
Oh, nice. Love to hear it. What about you, Victor? What have you been doing this week?
I mean, we got BGs coming in hot and heavy, tariffs or no. And then I got myself a brand new chair. Steel case, turns out. Big fans of the pod. Comped me a chair for free.
Oh,
so I'm sitting pretty.
Shout out. That's awesome. And you say that maybe perhaps even some BGs have been delivered?
Oh, yeah, baby. They're flying in.
And that's what I like to hear. Just a little callback, because I know our listeners love those callbacks. What about that table? What's the status on that table?
Oh my god, dude. They're literally holding it. They're like, hey, yo, this tariff situation, it's just not the move to deliver things to the US right now.
Oof.
Especially these tables, because they're expensive. So if they get 154% tariff, they're just going out of business. So they sent out an email saying, all right, y'all, everyone who ordered your gamefold who does not live in America, you're getting your table on schedule. If you live in America or Canada, you're going to have to wait, because I guess Canada gets delivered through America. So
ooh, the good old sorry about ya.
Sorry about that, homies.
Trickle down unfairness.
Well, we'll keep our listeners, updated on this table, because we all want to play on it, you know what I'm saying? But if it stays in China, no way we can play on it. But
it's going to have to be a field trip.
That's what I'm saying. Moving on, though, you keep saying you got some BGs delivered, fighting the good fight. So this is a great segue to off the shelf.
Off the shelf. Yeah, dude, I got this one. It did not hit the shelf before I played it, actually, so it's a little inaccurate to say that.
Oh.
But, this game got here, opened it up, showed it to my girlfriend, and she was just like, yo, let's hit it. This is called Night Shift.
Spicy.
Just came out 2025. Designed by Exotic Cancer, art by Exotic Cancer, published by herself, basically, through Kickstarter.
Nice.
Exotic Cancer is a former exotic dancer who I don't know the whole trajectory, but I guess at a certain point she started posting art to Instagram. Got a little bit of a following, because she did stuff that she saw in the strip clubs and stuff like that. And then she kind of parlayed that, as most people do, into making her own board game with all her own art. So, as you might imagine, in the game you play as a dancer in a strip club.
Interesting.
And you playing out over the course of one night, and you're just trying to make the most money. And you get money by stripping for customers, and by getting them to simp for you by subscribing to your OnlyFans. And since you're at the club, you can buy drinks and like give free drinks to your customers, for like little bonuses. And just like in a classic strip club, it's competitive with the other strippers. You're trying to make the most money, and you can mess with the other strippers as well. So everyone gets to pick their dancer to start, and they all have like a full page like story and stats and background that'll be like, Diamond is actually really shy and just wants to be at home with her dog, but like, she loves spending money on her dog, so she goes to the club to like make money. This one, I think the one I played, her name, I don't remember her name exactly. It might have been Sapphire. It's like she's basically just trying to keep up with all her rich friends, and they don't know that she strips on the side. So they all have their stories, and you start off in the locker room with all the other homies. And out there in the strip club, there's a stage, and there's a bunch of Johns sitting around the stage, but they're face down. So on your turn, you get to move and like discover a customer, flip it face up. Everyone can see it now. The customer will have a couple of things that if you want to go for that customer, you roll a d10, and then based on your result is what kind of will happen next. So usually, if you roll a 1 or, not too high, it's either a pretty lame result or actually something negative. If you roll like pretty good, you can usually take them to a private room to give them a private dance next turn. And if you roll really high, you might be able to go to the VIP room where they really shell out the big bucks. But there's like a lot of, every single customer is unique and like has their art. And like a lot of people, say who are also dancers, they'll be like, yeah, these are like really realistic kind of customers, like you can tell this is a person who was actually working at a strip club and meeting all these people. You kind of have to push your luck a little bit at this point, and that's the theme of the whole game, is pushing your luck. Because when you see a customer and you flip it, you can potentially go find a different customer, but maximum, like, you can find 2 customers per round, right? So you might be like, yeah, this customer, like, he doesn't really pay out very high. You can tell, like, they have like a star rating, or like the effects that you might roll for you don't want, so you might go to a different one. But you risk getting a customer that's like even worse. But once you settle on a customer and then you've got them to commit to going to the VIP room or the private room with you, you put a little token that's like, committed to VIP, committed to private room. Another stripper can come behind you and try to steal that customer before it goes back around to your turn, so you can get a little catty. And then that depends though on how loyal the customer is. Every customer has like a loyalty rating. But once you get them to the private room, that's when you start dancing on your next turn. You're going to draw cards, and it's another push your luck mechanic. You're going to draw cards that show like different dance moves, right? So is it like, show them a little hip, show them a little booty, press your breasts on them, like all different moves. But if you repeat a move 3 times, then you bust, and like they just give you like a small amount of money and walk out. But if you choose to stop, then however many moves you've done will add up how much money you make, and they'll subscribe to your OnlyFans, giving you a little passive income at the end of the game. And then the VIP room's a little similar, but every dancer has like a specific trait that like they're kind of known for. So one of them is like compassion, one of them is fantasy, one of them is fun. So like everyone has a special trait, and what you're trying to do is you're trying to like get a connection with this customer. So basically you roll a die that has all the traits of all the dancers, and you're trying to get a complete set of 6. But if you ever repeat, then you stop. And if you roll your own trait, then you straight up bust. So you're kind of pushing your luck on a die, but now it's a die instead of a deck, and then you can only bust once. But this is where like getting drinks comes into play. You can stop at the bar and buy champagne, which like lets you negate anything negative that you rolled or that you drew from the deck. You can buy shots at the bar, so whenever you roll a die, you can add a +1. And then once or twice per game, it's going to be your turn to dance on the stage. So you have to go like stop what you're doing and go dance on the stage, or like you get fined $1,000 by the club owners. But when you do, you get tips from the people, and then like that's something you kind of have to like set up ahead of time. You want to make sure there's tippers out there, and then you get power cards. And power cards are just like little like bonuses you can play usually at any time. That'll be like, get extra money, get extra drinks, or you can mess with other people. You can make them like lose a customer, or like I played one where like it was double team. So someone took someone to a private room or the VIP room, and I was like, hey, let me join you. And I got to make half the money they made. But yeah, it's pretty fun. It's pretty, it's not like super heavy or anything like that, but like the art is like just fun to look at. And then the components are premium. And like, well, I got like a kind of upgraded one on Kickstarter, so it's got like a felt box when you open it up. It's like magnetic. It's got the paper money in this is like thick. It almost feels like magnets. It's insane.
It's got like that synth wave vibe going, at least from the pictures that I'm looking at.
Very neon.
So you said it's fairly light, right? So a lot of dice rolling, and you said a lot of luck. Basically, pushing your luck.
It's all push your luck. You're like drawing from a deck, and you can stop anytime. But as you make money, you can buy like champagne or like get power cards or whatever, and like try to tip the scales.
So you've hit this already multiple times?
No, just once. I got it. I think it got here like Sunday, and then we just went ahead and played it immediately.
I see. And what did your girlfriend think? Just curious.
Oh yeah, she was totally into it as well. Maybe more than me. I don't know, but she read through like the entire like biography of all the dancers, and then she finished, and she was like, "I'm gonna be Ruby." I was like, "Damn, all right." She's already forming a connection.
So is this one you see taking out and playing with your group?
Well, with the boys, I mean, they like for the weekly BG, like heavy BG night, like we might play it once. It wouldn't be like a regular, but like if the homies are over, it's definitely like a fun one to bust out. It's like a little more like length to it, right? It says 40 to 90 minutes. So it's like a little longer, but it's pretty light. It's definitely the kind of game you could play like drinking and like have a lot of fun with, because like it's mostly the customer cards are pretty funny. There's like a lot of references to random things. So like one card I got was the Three Wise Men. The designer herself is one of the cards in there, and there's a lot of like tech bros, or bachelor party, or straight girl, things like that.
Yeah, so I remember when this was on Kickstarter. I know it like cost a lot of commotion, I guess, just based off of the subject matter. And I guess it kind of leads to a good question that I'm curious what you both think about. How do you feel about I guess a mature or adult board games? Like, I guess this one would kind of fall under that.
For me, I feel like this is probably the perfect storm of who should be making this type of game and why. Because it's like Exotic Cancer was a dancer. And so she actually knows the lore. She can actually put her experiences into it and make the game the right way versus like a pervy money grab. You know what I mean? So it's like if a dude did this on like his perception of him always being in a strip club, I can see how this could go really smutty or really derogatory and like almost feel like you're punching down on strippers. But based on just like and it's like you can see it in the production. She really cares about this game, and she really cares about the components and then probably the experience itself. So I don't know. I feel like it's not just a hee quick boner type of game. I feel like it's a good game with the theme of this is what it's like to work in like a nightclub, and like even with like the lore page, she probably is talking about friends and like code. So It could just be like this is what happened on like a night if you're interested, and not ever stepping into an actual strip club, but this is kind of how it goes.
Yeah, it's definitely not like punching down on dancers or even the customers. Like if this was someone else making the game, they could be like, "Oh, all these customers are so pervy and losers, and what are they doing here?" And there's definitely some of them that you're like, "Oh, this guy seems like a scumbag," or "This guy seems kind of," be like, "His wife and children don't know he's here." He makes sure that you keep everything a secret. But it just feels like more realistic, and it's not just like making everyone out like to be total cartoons, or like taking it too far. But I mean, I think it's great though. Like, I think there should be more like mature themes in board games, because like there's mature people playing board games. Not every game has to be for families or safe for children.
I just know that every time some sort of board game that has come out that has a mature theme, this one, is an example, and there was another one called Hate, which was it's basically like a campaign game that it has extreme violence in it. Anytime a game that comes out like this, it definitely tends to stir up a lot of people in the board game community. And obviously they tend to be the standouts, as in like, because they don't come out often enough, I guess. So I was just curious what you guys thought, because I mean, again, I'm cool with it. But it's just interesting to see people's reactions when they do end up coming out, and kind of seeing how the community reacts to them, right?
Yeah, that was actually part of the reason I wanted to bring it up. I forgot about like the controversy, because it got pretty insane. Because like you said, there's been controversy before, so like Hate, Kingdom Death Monster, but like I don't know, it didn't seem like all that intense to me as much as this one. Like, oh my god, some of the comments that people put in on Board Game Geek, because a lot of people were giving it like the lowest possible rating, and it was like, this was 2 years ago when no one had the game. No one could possibly have the game. And it's just all these like 1 ratings of being like, this has no place in like our board game community. This one review, what a dirty and sinful theme.
Yeah.
So it's like
that, it's actually a really good point you're making, because it's actually something that people are talking about, right? And they're saying BGG should just not allow ratings until the game officially has a release date. And when that release date passes, then the ratings can start coming in, because not just mature board games are victims of this. Silly things like, oh, Brass Birmingham has knocked down Gloomhaven, let's bomb review it in order to get Gloomhaven back as the number 1 game. And stuff like that, where they're trying to alter the rating system. It's just it's just kind of silly, to be honest. But yeah, well, I guess it's unanimous from all of us. There needs to be more games that cater to all needs, I guess. So, well, that's Night Shift. I'm glad you enjoyed that, Vic. Maybe we can play that at some point when you come to Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
We can all the boys can get together and see who can make the most money.
Yeah, all the boys can come together and throw some ass. Y'all feel?
Exactly. Now, Aaron,
What up?
what have you been working with? I know you said you were busy this week playing some BGs. Tell me what you get into.
Yeah, baby. So I played 2 since we've last talked. So the first one I played was, shout out to my home group, because they heard the last pod, how I was punching down on Clank, and they're just like, "Oh, best believe Clank's coming off the shelf." And so I played Clank.
damn.
So Clank is the iconic deck building
Ooh.
game designed by Paul Denon, illustrated by a few homies, so Ramos, Nate Storm, and the crew, and published by Renegade Game Studio. So, for those who don't know, in Clank, players create and enhance their own decks throughout the game while they're diving through a dungeon. So, each turn, players start with 5 cards that can be played in any order, generating resources like skill swords and boots. So, with the skill, that's basically like your generic money. The swords are used to either help kill enemies in like the dungeon that you go through, or kill enemies that pop up in like the main market area. And then boots are obviously just like how you move through the dungeon. And so we played, I think it was Clank Adventures, and so everybody had like asymmetric power. So I had a dude who basically was like a almost like a window shopper slash a hater. So he wanted to collect different artifacts, and however many artifacts he collected, you could do different things on like your player board that other people weren't able to do. But if people started picking up artifacts that you didn't have, you start hating, and then you could, in like outside of your turn, play cards to allow you to do more stuff on your turn, right? And so basically, the way the game works is you're building out a dungeon. It's like you're anytime you move, there's like diamond areas that stop your movement, but like you'll go into a passage, right? And so the cool thing about the game is you draw a dungeon card and you can organize it however you want. Like you have like 4 options to organize it to continue you diving through the dungeon. The goal of the game is to get diverse pieces of quote unquote treasure and then dip, because as you're diving through the treasure, you're creating noise or you're clanking. And so anytime you clank loud enough, anytime there's like a dragon attack, the dragon, you'll put all your little cubes that created the clank into the bag, and the dragon starts attacking. Based on how much treasure people have, the dragon gets like madder and madder. And so when he hits you, he does like a little bit of damage. But like if you get down to like 10 damage and you are outside of like a designated safe zone, then you're just face down, ass up, and you get 0 points. If you are in the red zone or like the little safe zone and the dragon kills you, then you're face down, ass down, and like you'll just get your points. But if you escape the dungeon, you'll get a fat 20 points added to your hand, or added to your total points total. So the goal is obviously
Mm-hmm.
to get through the dungeon, get out, and then get all those sweet points. So we played this, and I think I lost to Hu John on by I think like 5 points. It was Mad Gooch. He was like a mage who was able to like teleport and do some cool shit. Greener, who was playing with us, he was like this rickety robot. All of his cars added clank. So that boy was built to get hits, because as he got hit, he would get more like passive perks. So I think he had like 5 hits. So every turn he started off with like 2 swords, 2 buying power, or quote unquote like 2 skills, and like 1 boot. And I was like, dang, dude, like he's kind of broken. But as like the cave was collapsing and like all the dragon was doing is like drawing yellows, I was like, oh no, our boys clapped. And then our boy most of Gordon Levitt was like this cat who was basically there just to like troll everybody, because the cat would move around, but also would cause the dragon to do like extra attacks. But anytime he triggered a dragon attack, the dragon just didn't hit him. So anytime the dragon drew squares out of the bag, he just kept them and didn't put it on the damage track. So that ended up being
Devious.
that ended up being kind of annoying. But I enjoyed it. I still think it would have been on the cut list, but now that I played it, I could
Oof.
say like
Ooh.
I like when games kind of combine 2 things that I really like. So I do really like dungeon crawlers. I do really like deck building. And I thought I would enjoy them being combined together, but I was like, I kind of feel like this game needs to be one or the other. I get that it's revolutionary. I get that it's like in people's top 10, but it's just not my top 10.
Interesting. Well, first of all, again, shout out to your home group for hearing me out and making you play it.
Hmm.
Make him play it again. It's a really good game, and yeah, man, I'm glad you
You don't
had.
like this game.
Yeah, you're gonna love this game by the end of it all. But yeah, interesting to hear your thoughts on it. I love playing it every time. It's something a little lighter than your usual games that you're playing, but it has really good. I like the fact that depending on where you fall, the dragon can either just completely delete you or you can still be saved. So, there's a lot of like little things like that in that game that just make it really interesting. Victor, have you had a chance to play Clank?
No, it's one of those games that like I see on my friend's shelf all the time, and I'm always like, "What is that?" And then he's like, "Oh, it's Clank," and then the conversation just ends there.
It's dang.
So I don't know. So I was like, "Well, he's not like recommending it to me a ton." So I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think isn't it kind of similar to that vampire game that we played at BGG? Do y'all remember that?
Oh, you're talking about the Hungry
like
or Hunger
The
or something?
Hunger. Yeah.
The Hunger.
Is it
That's
similar
what it
to
is.
the Hunger? Like you're kind of running around in a circle?
A little
No.
bit. I mean, I would say a little bit.
I think it's more the hunger is more linear because it's like with the hunger you're not really doing any dungeon exploring. It's almost just like yeah, you use your cards to move from point A to point B, but that's kind of it. Like in Clank, you're building out a living, breathing dungeon, and so you high key could trap yourself. But and like that's kind of like the fun of it because like you don't really know where the path is going to lead you. But you could also like think yourself out of it. You know what I mean? So it creates a little bit
Yeah.
more tension than the hunger because I remember the hunger was like you got to go to a certain place and then you got to get back before the sun comes out. Otherwise, you're hashtag
Yeah.
fried. So I would compare the hunger more to like deep sea adventures mechanics versus Clanks.
That's interesting because Deep Sea Adventures is straight heat, white hot. We love that. And then The Hunger, I was like, well, I don't know. It's like a little long for what's going on. It seems like almost like a little bit too simple, but then it's also like we've been here for like 90 minutes. So I wonder if Clank like kind of brings it around the other end where it's like, well, it's heavy enough that you're kind of like more invested. But I don't know. So I'm a little bit on the edge about it, but we'll see. We'll see if my friend ever wants to recommend it, or he might have math traded it. I don't know. Maybe it's too late for me.
I have the Clank in Space one. So we can try that one, Vic, next time you're over. So you can dip your toes in the Clank multi-universe.
Yeah, I mean, if Aaron really wants to play, I mean, let's hit it. Let's make him love this game.
That's funny.
So what else have you been getting into, Aaron?
Oh man, we have a special guest referee come through. I the next game we played, it is a 2 to 8 player slash 2 to 9 player game, and I was like, normally we have like a good motley crew that plays games, and I was like, you know who would really enjoy this? My boy Tona Works. So me and Tona played Veiled Fate with all the fixins.
Mm-hmm.
So, for those who don't know, Veiled Fate
Ooh.
is a 2 to 8 player hidden role game designed by Max Anderson, Zach Dixon, Austin Harrison, and illustrated by Harry Conway, published by IV Studio. In Veiled Fate, players take on the role of secret demigods who are wandering the realms of humankind. So, at the start of each game, each player is assigned to one of the 9 demigods for 1 to 5 players, and if you are playing 6 to 8, you get assigned to you and another person get assigned to one demigod. So when you're playing up to 5 people, it's one person representing one of the five of the 9 demigods. But when you're playing with teams, only 4 of the demigods are used. And so I've had this game for a hashtag hot minute. And it's crazy because the game basically revolves around you have access to on each of your turns you have like you have up to 2 actions, right? And so one of the actions is obviously moving. And so it's this beautiful circular board, all interconnected. You can move the gods onto these quests. Quests and the completing quests are the main way that you either get points or lose points for people because anytime you move, if I'm like the blue player, I can move the red player, the green player, I can move anybody. Like that's the point of the game is it's all misdirection. And so the game is played over 3 ages, and age advances when either all the quests are over or everybody passes. And so every time you go to a quest card, you have to put this fate card, quote unquote, down. And the fate card will either have 1 or 2 feathers, which mean 1 or 2 feathers, or 1 or 2 scorpions. And so after a quest is filled up, it has like maybe 3 or 4 gods that'll fill it up. Then you do a grand reveal. You'll shuffle up the cards and you'll show all the cards that are played down. And so if more scorpions are shown, then you'll resolve the scorpion side, and if more feathers are resolved or shown, then you will resolve like the feather size. So that's like the main way of like getting points and making sure people lose points. So this got in right before the tariff madness got started. So we played a game called we got the DLC in the Tribunal DLC, and it added 3 new expansions. So first off, it had like new spicy fake cards. So there were some where you pointed at a person and just like, hey, you play a fake card face up, so we can see what's the real skin in the game that you got. There was another one that completely just stopped the vote. So there was a few times where it was like a pile of cards, like maybe 6, like deep, which is a lot of votes to go through. And then like you drew an X, and it's just like, all right, well, it doesn't even matter what anybody put down here. We're just gonna flip a coin and see who wins. The first thing that we played with, which I don't think I'll ever play without, was the Hadria expansion. So in Hadria's expansion, the way the game normally works without Hadria is whichever god is at has the most points wins at the end of the game, right? But with Hadria, Hadria is a D1 certified hater. So anybody who has more points than Hadria automatically loses, and the person who is right behind Hadria, or whoever's the closest to being behind Hadria, is the one who wins. So that was spice number 1. The next one we played with was the Servants expansion, which there's 3 basically like these they're almost just like kind of like friendly monsters where you had a big old scorpion who whichever region he was in, and if you complete a quest, he adds 2 scorpion claws to the final tally. Another dude added 2 feathers. And then the serpent guy, I forget what his name is. I think it's like Invictus. He made you resolve the cards again. So if you were on a quest and your Demi were supposed to gain 2 points, now he's gaining 4 points. And so that just completely blew kind of like the dynamics like completely out of the water, because it allowed you to like look people in the eyes and be like, why are you moving this dude here? Oh, why are you moving Invictus here? Oh, why is this getting completed? Why'd you get 4 points? It has to be you. And the final expansion we played with was the Celestials expansion, which adds 7 new, like quote unquote, god players to the game, which also puts the game up to 9 players. So 8 people were just regularly playing, and I played the role of his name was Eridan. And so Eridan, one of Eridan's win conditions was he had to guess 5 of the demigods that the people represented. I got absolutely clapped. I only guessed 2 people, but it didn't matter because somebody like just completely sent their god to the stratosphere, and like they triggered the automatic win condition, which is to get 13 points. So good for them. I'm definitely not salty about that, but yeah, man, it was a really good time. Not only bringing the homies together, but really like just enjoying the fruit of that studio, that IV studio labor, man. It was a game that I was really looking forward to, not as much as Galactic Cruise, but it delivered just the same.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess I'll talk about it too. I was welcomed in with open arms, pizza in hand by Aaron. I was
already know
excited to get Veiled Fate played again. We played this at BGG Con. I can't remember if it was your copy, Aaron, that we played there.
Yeah,
or it was,
baby.
BGG's.
It was
So we got to play that. We got to taste that, and that this new expansion had dropped, right? And so we were able to finally play this at the full 9 count. So I guess I'll just start off with I have mixed feelings about this game. I love the quality and the components of this game. You can tell they really, they could have like skimped out on a lot of these components, like the die itself, or the coin that you flip. They could have skimped out, made it a little lesser quality. No one would have noticed, but they didn't. And all their components reflect this as well. It's all the art is beautiful. And again, the expansion just kind of follows the same, keeping the quality impressive. The strategy. So I think what really adds spice to this game, now that we've played it with the expansions, kind of just to echo what Aaron said, I don't think I could play without them. And especially Hadria, because the Hadria expansion adds the fact that if the game fully resolves without someone reaching 13, you have to be below Hadria in order to right below her, not even completely below her, in order to win the game. I think it adds such a dynamic throughout the whole game because you're now struggling whether you want renown, which is their quote unquote victory points, or whether you want to tank your player so you can get below Hadria. Um, I think that in itself added a whole nother dynamic to this game. And it adds some much more needed complexity to it. Another thing that I want to, kind of give kudos to Veiled Fate is that it has been able, and I'll always point this out with these type of games, even though it is on the lighter side, it has been able to be a game that has really good strategy for the amount of number of people that are playing. So we were playing with 9 players, but the amount of strategy trying to deduce who your partner is, trying to deduce who everyone is, trying to keep in your mind. Some people were even writing notes, calculating their moves, trying to figure out what other people were doing. It's definitely kudos, Games that are able to pull that off without them, fully falling into the party game territory. It's always impressive to me. I think that really does speaks volumes for that type of design. Now like I said, I did have mixed feelings, and the one con that I guess I have with this game, and it's just, I guess, nature of the beast. It's gonna be when you have that many people together, we're gonna want to talk, right? We're gonna want to socialize, and sometimes it just ends up falling where, like, it takes too long between your first turn and your next turn, where you don't really know what's going on anymore. And also it kind of suffers from the fact that, and I guess this was my opinion, but it kind of suffered from the fact that, like, you can't really plan ahead too much because the board's always constantly changing. And when you have 9 or 8 other people also changing that board, by the time it fully gets back to you, it's like a completely different realm. Take that or leave it.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, though, I'd say that, it's definitely one that I'd be willing to play again. Definitely, I'd be willing to play with the same group as well. It was a lot of fun with that group. Everyone was super nice, and they were definitely, I think all of us were really into it, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I think my only problem was that, like, it did take a little too long to get, do a full circle. But it's just the nature of the beast, like I said. So that's kind of what I thought. Did you feel any of that, Aaron, or was it just me?
So I think the person I was playing with had to be engaged at all times, because how I won the game was to pick people. So I had to literally dissect everything each player was doing. So I was locked in the entire time. It almost feels like, in order to cut down on the I can be kind of passive, is like, if it almost feels like it could be a factor where it's like, if 4 or more people guess who you are, your dude loses a point. You know what I mean? So, because it's like, there's no active, there's really no reason for me to try to figure out who somebody is outside of my partner. Because it's like, well, if they figure me out, like, are they really going to be able to do something about it? Because it's like, in all the games of Veiled Fate I've played, I figured out who my partner was like a few times, but I also knew who other people were. So, like, last night, like, at the end of age 1, I knew who, one of our friend staff was, but I didn't. There was no reason for me to, like, mess with her, because I was just like, I mean, I know who you are, but there's no reason for me to, like, throw you somewhere, because, like, she was in the Hadria claw, like, deep into the Hadria's jaw. So I was just like, Hadria will just handle my lightweight. But that's another reason why I've just liked Hadria so much, is because it's so easy to have people run away with it. Like if we didn't play with Hadra, I legitimately think people would have just been like, it doesn't really matter if you know who I am or not. If I can get my person and get Invictus to my quest and then solve it in the same turn, I might get 4 points, and there's really not much you can do about it. So I just feel like with all the expansions play so well together that it's kind of just like per the course. There is a dude who I do think might add like a little bit of spice. It's called the Arbiter, and so what the Arbiter does is he kind of has to like call his own shot. So basically, he's like a sniper, and he's just like, I want this god to be at this point value at the end of this age, and if he does, he kills him. And if he gets two of his predictions right, he has four predictions. The game's automatically over. So it could, if the Arbiter's cooking, he could end the game after age two, and then it's just like, all right, well, we're not playing anymore. I didn't personally want to do that because I didn't want to like end it too early, and then it's just like, oh man, we played for like an hour, but it took me like 30 minutes to set this game up and get it ready. Um, so yeah, I do
That's
think
Ball, baby.
that I do think that it's almost just like if you added like almost like a drinking aspect to it, where it's like you punish people for me finding out who you were. I feel like that could be something that you could do.
Yeah, and I think that's probably another thing that I feel like this game could benefit from. And I feel like it's not taking full advantage of it. I think this game is set up to have a really good spicy deduction like element to this. But kind of like you just stated, I feel like it always just kind of feels underwhelming because it's like, okay, well, I'm pretty sure this is my partner, but they're going to just do what they want to do at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like you said, there's no like negative or positive effect to like get like fully, right, to getting like that information. Maybe that's going to be the next expansion where they maybe promote the deduction aspect of the game a little more. Because I think there is some brilliance there. I think if they're able to somehow exploit that better and make it more important in the game, I think it would cause players to pay more attention and be able to be, try to focus a little more on the deduction part of things to try and figure out who's who, to try and get ahead,
Oh, 100%. I actually think, how we'll do a callback to an interesting mechanic that I thought about was from Wingspan when you play like with the fully built out and it's like two people are taking their turn. It's almost like you have a clock. So
Hey,
it's like two
yo.
people are taking a turn each turn. So instead of waiting, like 6 or 7 turns, every four turns you're taking a turn. So not only are you burning your fate cards a little bit quicker, but it's like you're a little bit more because it's like when I can yap for like 2 rounds. Like as soon as I do my thing, I can get up, pet the dog, go to the bathroom, eat a slice of pizza, come sit back down, and all I've missed is like three people's turns, and it's just like, well, I have like four more people before I go, so I can like really lock in after like the person before the person I go after goes, because that's really going to dictate what I'm doing. So it's like to speak to it's hard to like long term plan. It 100% is because we've played a game without the expansions where I did one quest and before it got back to me, three quests have been done, and it's just like there's really nothing I can do about that because you can't interject, you can't
Yes.
do anything really to stop whatever anybody else is doing because everybody's operating on when this person goes, I'm gonna start planning. When the next person goes before me, then it's like I'm gonna solidify my plan, and now it's my turn to do some shit.
And since you bring that up, there is something that I thought of while we were playing yesterday, and I was like, I think this would make it really cool. I don't know how game breaking it would be, but so with Hadra, she starts off in the abyss, and so one of the things about her is she has a little token that moves through the renown track. And so people are trying to stay behind her, right? But that's not the only thing she brings into the game. She also brings a tokens. And basically, when you move out of the abyss, you are able to get a token. And basically, if you use this token at the end of the game, it's like negative points if you have the most. It's just one negative point if you have the most tokens used. But with these tokens basically are like instants. Like basically during your turn you have two actions, move or use a god power, but now it introduces these tokens that you can also use on top of your two actions, which is a free action. And the tokens will have things like portal, which you can move a character from one place to another. There's going to be like influence, where you can influence like fate cards, etc., etc., right? So the reason why I bring that up is I was thinking it would be cool if these tokens could kind of be used outside of your turn.
Yeah, that would be crazy. That would go crazy.
Because then now you're introducing like interjection in other turns, which kind of like adds some more chaos to it. You know, it adds like more uncertainty to like, because basically it did feel like during some points of the game. So in the quest, there are these quest cards, right? And you have to put, for instance, a quest card might have 3 circles, and you have to put 3 of the demigods on there for the quest to start and complete, basically. But it kind of felt a lot in a lot of the parts of the game where like you were just almost kind of doing like some quick maths, and you were like, okay, someone's already, so there's 1 demigod on this card already, and there's 2 spots left. And I know that there's like 4 people between me and the current turn. And it's just kind of like, well, I know it's definitely going to be done by the time it gets to me. Because one person could literally just move 2 demigods into that quest card and just kind of like, take the quest, do the quest, whatever. So I think like introducing something like that would be really, really interesting to see how it played out,
Yeah, 100%. And then another thing I was thinking about was just to punish people for not being sneaky enough. I was like, it almost feels like you need I'm going to put my badge on the line. I forget which one that was. I think it was like detective or something
Deception, I think.
where you, deception, there we go. Where it's just like, I'm going to put my badge on the line. I'm about to call it out.
Badge on the line.
Where it's literally just like, hey, I'm going to bet that Tona, you are the teal player. If I'm right, the teal player is eliminated from the game. But if I'm wrong, then my god's
you know?
eliminated from the game.
Spicy.
So where it's like you could just
Spicy.
have like you can have just like a straight up call out, because it's like it punishes
That'd be
you
nutty.
for saying like, hey, I've been paying attention, you've been moving out loud, I see you. But it also is just like, well, I think I've been paying attention, I haven't, and then like I get punished. I do think like that could be something you could add to the game, but like you need parameters to be built outside. Like
Oh yeah.
there needs to be like parameters of like where you just can't do it. So like I feel like if you get to like round like age 3, then it's just like, well, you just gotta play it out. Or like maybe it's like after the 4th quest is done on age 3, then it's just like, all right, well, there's no more guessing anymore. You know what I mean?
it's like 5 minutes into the game, you just have a salty crash out. You're like, this person's blue. It's like no. It's like oh god.
Right. Oh, you could have like, so there's ages, right? There's 3 ages or something. There could be
Yeah.
like council rounds, like at the end of each age, the council convenes and you secretly write down who's who. And for every person who's right, like that person loses a point or something like that.
Oh yeah, yeah. And 1 point would be fine, because like I said, using the Hydra tokens, like you get penalized for having the most used, but you only lose 1 point. So like it's not like
It's not a penalty.
it's not like it's gonna be game breaking, but yeah, there's definitely room for additions. So I'm curious to see if Ivy Studio plans on expanding on this. Like I said, I'd love to see some more deduction being pushed out. Kind of making it a little more important.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say that their expansion, the tribunal that they came out with, is immaculate.
Immaculate.
I think it adds to the game what it was missing that I didn't even know it was missing, to be honest, because it was already a good game at BGG Con. But yeah, this expansion I think definitely adds stuff that it definitely needed.
Oh, 100%.
So Victor, after hearing Aaron and I yap, I'm curious, like what do you think about our experience?
Well, yeah, I played it at BGG Con with y'all and just raw dogged it. I think no expansions, base game. And we all the Austin homies, I mean, we were all like into it, but I guess none of us were like, oh, we're gonna buy it immediately or anything like that. It's like we'll just play with Aaron when when Aaron's around. Um, but yeah, I mean, I really liked figuring out who my partner was. I couldn't imagine playing this game without having a partner like that. That seems so lonely. But I was just like, I was really trying to figure out who my partner was, and it was just funny, just like, just talking shit to people and be like, oh yeah, yeah, Teal, right? Team Teal, right here, Team Teal, and just
Yeah.
like yapping. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was pretty fun, and I felt like it was the kind of game where I got to the end and I was like, damn, you know what? I should not have been doing what I was doing like the whole time. Because I think I
Oof.
was like really leaning into the deduction aspect of it and trying to
Yeah.
hide who I was. And so
Uh-huh.
I was trying to figure out who everyone else was to figure out who the neutral gods were. Because I guess, there's like 5 gods that are neutral and only 4 that are actually being used by anybody. So I was trying to figure out who the neutral gods were so I could like dump points into that god and then everyone thinks I'm that god. But then I guess it didn't really like benefit me a whole ton because like, oh, people didn't know who I was, but it's like, well, I just missed out
Doesn't.
on points
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I kind of came out of it being like, you know what? I feel like this is the kind of game where like if everyone knows what they're doing and like the more you play it, like the faster it'll go and like, just the more fun you'll be able to have. So I was like, I need to play this one some more. But yeah, it sounds like it needs more hate, more ways to hate. I think like just in general in this world, we need more ways to hate.
Well, it's funny because they answered your question because there's one of the Celestials who's called the Tormentor, and his only goal is to make sure one player gets last. Like that is the only way he wins the game is if that person gets last place. So
Yo,
it is you play with Hadria, like the D1 Hater, and you're like a D1. You're also like a 5-star D1 Hadria. Oh my god, like yeah, man, I'm just so impressed. Like I had Veiled Fate around like a 7.5 star game, and adding the expansions bumps it up easily to an 8.5. So yeah, this game is
Ooh.
marvelous.
So Victor did say something, and I'm just kind of curious. Aaron, have you played this game where there is no team play? Like,
No, the only time I've played this game 5 times. Each time I've played, it's been with 8 players because anytime I'm just like y'all trying to get Veiled Fate with it, it's like homies come out of the woodworks and they're just like, let's get it in. And so I was just like,
Phil Fate, Phil Fate.
I was like, I would actually like to play it at 5 players because that's the highest amount of players you play with no teammate, and then maybe like a celestial as well, just to see how that would go. So you're kind of like fending for yourself because I feel like not only will the turns go by quicker, so you have like a little bit more to do, but there's also another expansion called Adventures, and so there are when we play with 8 players, all the spaces are used with quests. But with like the adventure expansion, you add like little side quests that your little person can go on, or you can send people on, and it does like other type of stuff. So yeah, like it'd be definitely self-serving to do that as well.
yeah, we might have to, run it back. I need that salty run back. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying? Yeah,
dude, it
I
was,
need that
but like,
salty
it's
run back.
crazy. Like, we say all this stuff about how it could be better, but like at the end, even though my cheeks were definitely clapped, I was like, I swear, both Tona and Selena are blue because they are too happy with blues. But an event in the game earlier, Tona looked at one of the unused gods and it was blue. It was just like, yeah, keep thinking I'm blue. Didn't even let your man breathe.
I did like the introduction of that ninth player playing as a god and trying to just deduct. I'm sure it was like pretty taxing on you though, like because like you said, you had to lock in that entire game trying to figure it out.
Well, it was fun. Like
Uh,
that, like it's a deduction game. Like I enjoy doing deduction. Now, granted, would I play Eridan again? You goddamn right. Of course I would. But there's this dude called the Sorcerer who looks just so. There's just so many spicy Celestials that you could play as. Like of the 7 ones, outside like the Tormentor is somebody I would have like no interest in playing. But the other 6, I'd be like absolutely because I actually feel like the Arbiter is probably more taxing than Eridan because he has to call his own shots. And if he just doesn't call his own shots, you're just like kind of just hanging out and looking real
Mm-hmm.
awkward because it's just like, why is Aaron the only one who wants like red to go up? Oh, he's trying to call his own shot, and it's just like now you have to like kind of 5D chess and be like, well, maybe did I overshoot it? You guys got to make sure you know red goes to like two, or maybe he has to stay at three. I don't know. But like if everybody on the table is just like, well, we're just not going to make this happen. It's very easy for everybody to simultaneously like tank somebody, but I don't know. I've never seen that. I've never seen that happen, but I could just imagine it.
Yeah, yeah. And once again, shout out to your group, to your gaming group. You know, they were all homies. And they were definitely super into Veil Fate as well. So shout out to them. That was Veiled Fate.
Veiled Fate.
All right. You know, I've also been gaming. I've been, just trying to get it in as well. It's been a long time coming. This has been sitting on my shelf for a couple months now. I've been hearing a lot of hype. I've been hearing a lot of yapping, and I figured, you know what? I think it's time. I finally got Arcs, the board game, to the table. And man, oh man, do I have some stuff to say about it. But before I do, just gonna give a quick rundown, give a quick gist of the rules, not the complete version, just something quick for the listeners so they can kind of understand what Arcs is all about. Arcs was designed by Cole Worley, illustrated by Kyle Farron. He's known for Oath, Root, all that type of design, and it carries over to Arcs. Published by Leader Games. Player counts 2 to 4 players. It says it plays between an hour to 2 hours. It might. For us, it took about 4 hours with Teach, just because it was the first time. So, I could see it easily maybe going down to 2 hours and 30 minutes maybe. This was just the base game, but basically, what is Arcs, right? If you still haven't heard of it, it's been one of the hypiest of games of last year. But basically in Arcs, you lead a spacefaring society or a faction through this epic, they call it saga, right? You're trying to survive in the map, which is called the Reach, at the galaxy's edge, basically. The way you win is the person who has the most power. In 4 players, you need 27 power. With 3 players, you need 30. With 2 players, 33. You can go past that, but the game will end once one of the players gets to that. In Arcs, you're like I said, you're controlling different factions, but basically everyone will have ships, agents, cities, starports, and you're just trying to build out across in this map. How does a turn work? So the turns are actually really interesting. There's going to be basically like a trick-taking mechanic to rule them all when it comes to taking your turns. So basically, there's going to be a first player, and they're going to play a lead card. These cards are kind of like decks. But basically, it'll have a number. Under that number, there's going to be a number of pips. Those are going to be your actions. And then, it'll have like a suit. And depending on the suit, it'll have like different actions you can take based on that card. But basically, the first player will play what they call the lead card. The lead card basically states what suit everyone has to play on. When it comes to the second player and the rest of the players, they have 3 different actions that they can take. They can either surpass, which is basically stay on that same suit, but they have to play a higher number than the lead card. What that means is they'll be able to do the actions on their card that they play following the lead card, and they'll get as many actions as pips as the card they played, right? So if they played a 4 with 3 pips under it, then they get 3 actions. That's surpass. If you do pivot, that's going to end up being you play a card that is a different suit from the lead card. What ends up happening there is you're only allowed to take 1 action, regardless of how many pips you have on your pivot card. You're only allowed to take 1 action from the card you play. So if it doesn't follow the suit, it's called pivot, and you only take 1 action. Even if you had 4 pips, you still only take 1 action from the card you play. And last, you have copy. Copy is going to basically be where you play any card that you have face down. What that means is you get 1 action, but you get to use the actions of the lead card. So whatever the lead card, the actions that it has, you can basically do one of those actions. The way that you cease initiative, basically, because you want to be the one that kind of leads, and I'll go over that in a second. But basically, when you cease initiative, you can either play a 7 of that suit to beat the lead card, and then that person will get the initiative marker. But also, you can basically play 2 cards on your turn, one face down on top of the other, and you're basically seizing the initiative that way. Once you seize the initiative, you can't take the initiative away. One thing I should mention, though, there are 5 chapters in the entire game, and it can end early. Like I said, if a 4-player game passes 27 points, it'll end early, but usually you can play 5 chapters. And within each chapter, it's composed of rounds, essentially. So every player is going to get 6 cards. And those cards are basically how you're playing the trick-taking mechanic. And it's all random. It's all random. Every single chapter, you get 6 cards. They're all random. So after the initiative, after you play all your lead cards, you're going to be taking turns, right? Based on whatever cards you played. I'll just quickly go over them. I'm not going to fully explain what they are, but basically the actions that you can do are going to be build, where, you build ships, or you can place a city or starport on the map. Repair, you can repair, ships have 2 health points, cities have 2 health points. Basically, you can repair 1 point when you do the repair action. Tax, you start taxing, cities. But you can tax cities that are, not your cities. You can tax rival cities. And when you do that, you start stealing agents from other players.
Oh,
They
yeah, that's that good stuff.
And then they start falling into your captive player board. You can move your ships as well, and just like any other game where you would move your ships. And then, there's this cool mechanic called catapult. I'll let you guys look into that, but basically it's just a faster way to move. Then you can also do
Fast
influence. So in influence, there's a court as well. And they call it the court, but it's basically like a market of cards. There's always going to be 4 out. I think it changes depending on players, but for 4 players, there's 4 cards out. And with the court, you basically send your agents to influence these cards. That you want to get as many agents as you can on the cards you really want, because this moves on to the next action, which is secure, which basically it's a whole turn where you secure the card from the court, and you're able to keep the card now as basically like a passive buff, unless it's like a Vox card, and then it's like an instant buff. And then on top of all that, you also have the action called battle. Battle, I would say, is probably the meatiest part of the game. I won't go super into detail, but basically you can hit ships. You can hit your own ships. The ships you're hitting can intercept you and hit you as well. You can then hit buildings. You can destroy cities. You can also raid. There's a lot of detail to it, but basically that's kind of how it goes. And you roll the dice, and there's 3 different kinds of dice. and they all kind of behave a little bit differently. So you get to choose, depending on how many ships you have, what dice you want. So you could do a combination, or you can just do one type of die, depending how spicy you feel. But there's a lot of detail in battle. And one more thing. So why do you want initiative during trick taking, right? So one of the reasons that I already said is because you can lead. You lead the trick taking portion of the game. But more importantly, when you have initiative and you put the lead card down, you also have the option of declaring ambition. I haven't mentioned ambition. What is ambition? So ambition is actually another part of the game. And when you declare ambition, you're basically using your lead card. So it'll have a number, and whatever number that lead card has is tied to a specific type of ambition. And these ambitions, I'll just quickly go over them, is Tycoon. Basically, you have the most fuel and materials icons, so resources and on your guild cards. Tyrant, you have the most captives. Warlord, you have the most trophies, which is basically like when you kill ships from other people, you get those as trophies. Keeper, you have the most relic icons, which is another type of resource. Empath, you have also the most psionic icons. So basically, what's great about that is that you yourself are choosing what gets scored every chapter. So basically, the scoring mechanism changes chapter to chapter. There's 3 different tokens that you move around in ambitions that are worth 5, 3, and 2 points. And so each one, you can place on a different ambition, or you can place all 3 in the same one. Just depends who gets the lead and who, where they place it. It all really depends. But that's basically how you play arcs. Now, my thoughts on arcs is holy crap. Holy crap. Does it live up to the expectation of the hype? 110 million %. I just made that up. I'll tell you what. I've never, this is a first for me. I've never played a game that I felt completely insecure about anything that I was absolutely doing. It changes everything. Every single, I could see playing this game 1,000,000 times, just the base game, and having a different outcome every time. The fact that this is feels like a 4X game. You're moving, you're attacking, you're exploring. Not really exploring as much, but you are definitely expanding and
exploiting.
Yeah, and expanding and basically introducing the trick-taking mechanic where you can't really come up with a solid strategy because you're getting 6 different cards every chapter. And these cards all have specific actions. So you have to make a quote-unquote strategy based off whatever cards you have for that chapter. And sometimes it feels like you don't have enough, right? One thing I did forget to mention, and I do want to mention now, after, I said when you place a card down, you have as many actions as the pips that are on that card. One thing I didn't mention, though, is there's this thing called prelude, and it happens before you start taking your actions. And basically, you can put a resource that you've gotten prior on top of the card, and depending on the resource you use, it's basically like a free action. On your player board, it'll tell you what it does. So basically, like for instance, like a material will let you build or repair, right? So it's like an extra action you can use without having to use your pip actions. So just want to point that out. But being able to, or trying to build a strategy around the cards that you're getting, and it's changing every chapter. But not only that, introduce the fact that now the end goal for every chapter to be able to score power, quote unquote, victory points changes chapter through chapter, and you're trying to declare ambition on what's most favorable to you. It blew my mind. It blew my mind. It was it was just it's a beautiful design. I couldn't enjoy. I have to play this again soon. It was just, there's so many different moving parts to this game. And again, this is just the base game. We were thinking about playing with the leaders and lores module, which basically that's a little more, seasoning. Yeah, some more seasoning to your factions and stuff. But I opted not to. We did have some like newer players that were getting it. I didn't want to like fully scare them off. But regardless, like, I mean, it was just an incredible time, and it is a harsh game. It is.
I know.
It is not for the weak-hearted. Literally, first chapter, I almost had my entire ship army just deleted. Like, it is harsh, and if you're not prepared for it, I could see people crashing out. Like.
Oh,
like
yeah.
easily. Like literally, when I was teaching this game, the first thing I said was, listen, there's a chance you might lose your army completely in the first round. Just keep trying. Like, you can come back. It's that type of game. And it happened to me, and I could easily see people crashing out over this though. Like, just like letting it sour their experience. So this game is definitely like be aggressive, get in people's faces, like go to battle. Like, it favors people who go to battle 120,000%. So you just have to be able to take it head on and build from it. And depending on the ambitions and the cards you have to somehow be able to kind of work around that too. That's arcs. I mean, I like I said, I'm looking forward to my next play quick ASAP, because and with the expansion, I can't even wrap my head around that right now. But yeah, the base game itself was just like a beautiful design. Vic, I know you've played this before. Tell me, after all my yapping, what do you have to say?
Bruh, you are 100% the audience for this game. Is what I have to say. Because yeah, it just like, it rewards aggression so much. Like, there's no like, I'm just gonna sit over here, build up my little things, tax my cities, make my humble income. It's like, nothing is safe. You can't even, like, the clothes on your back someone could just take from you. Like, everything can be taken. And so it's just like, because everything can be taken, like, you have to be taking, because you're gonna get taken from. So like, the only way to stay afloat is to like always be hitting people.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, definitely.
Yeah, everything swings by like immediately. Like you said, like you can get those ambitions and be like, you know what, I got a lot of oil, so I'm gonna put the ambition in Tycoon. And then everyone's like, well, hey, if I win Tycoon, I get all those points. So I can just come in and just yank all your oil in one turn, and then you're like, oh, yacht. I messed up.
I apologize.
Yeah, and you know what? Another thing that this game doesn't really talk about, but like, I can definitely feel the ability. I can feel that it's there, is negotiation in this game.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely like a lot of like, hey, well, maybe we should attack this person before, and then maybe we can, kind of work out a little deal on the side type of thing. Dude, stuff like that already, like, just like naturally evolving in this game. It's crazy.
Yeah, this and Oath is like the most I felt like generals sitting around a table deciding the fate of nations. I'm just like, yo, Josh, that boy Isaiah, look at that army. We got to do something about this. And then like just making a plan just in the open. And then like 3 turns later, we've completely decimated him. He's gone from the board. He's just a distant memory. And then we're like, all right, cool. That's taken care of. And then like 2 turns later, the extreme return. Like it's so swingy. Like there's so many stories that can come out of it. You know, you can just make like, there's just so much drama. And then like, you know, you have all this negotiating with people, and then like just within a game, like you will like, I don't know, like almost like start like playing a certain kind of role, right? Like you'll just be like, hey, you know what? I'm the bruiser. I'm the battler. Like where do y'all need me to go fight? You know? And then it's like, you just bankroll me. All right. You just kind of start falling into these roles.
You say that, but it can all come crashing down next chapter, depending on the cards you're getting. You could be the bruiser chapter 1, right? Mm-hmm. But chapter 2, you get 0 aggression cards. Baby, now you're admin. Now you're taxing these folks. You know what I'm saying?
You know what? It's farming season. It's construction mode.
Like it's beautiful. It's beautiful how every chapter is different. It's beautiful how even every game turns out to be different, because again, like the ability that these cards that decide what you can and cannot do change. You know, it's all random. I'm amazed. I'm just like wanting to get this another play. It's just, you know, I kept hearing all this hype about it. I never really like, I just saw like kind of what it looked like, but I never really like bothered to learn it, and now because, you know, I didn't have it or whatever. But then I did get it, and I was like, wow, you know what? People are really hyping this up, and it's like a tiny box. Like, you know, I was like, how are people like saying this is like one of the best games of 2024 when this box is so tiny? I mean, it shut me up. I'll tell you what, because like, dang, has some freaking power in it. You know what I'm saying? Aaron, you've heard me yap. You've heard Victor. What? Tell me what do you think about it?
I mean, it sounds like it's gas. It sounds like I need to play it, because it's funny that you say it rewards aggression, because if we like boil it all the way down to like a foundational game, it almost feels like Small World, because like in Small World, you are going to get got. You just got to get yours more than you get got. Like it's going to happen. And so I always like games like that, because it's just like normally I kind of like have to, like if I'm gonna go like be an aggressor, it's just like I kind of have to like wipe this person out or make them like a vassal, because if they like hit me back or like I'm too exposed, then like I'm just gonna get like super got. And sometimes that like has also like bad feelings around the table and all the other kind of stuff. So I'm just kind of like, I'll just kind of like stay on my own zone. But you got negotiation, you got aggression, where it's like I tried to like punch this dude in the face. I got like absolutely jacked up, my chain snatched, but I can like build back from 0, and I can keep going at it again and again and again. That just sounds like it sounds gravy. That this game sounds like a must play.
Yeah, no, I think you'd really enjoy it. You know, for me, if I had to rate this right now, I'd give it 8.5 easily. I think with more plays, and if I get that expansion out and it adds more mechanics, you know, I don't know, man. I'm looking at least a 9.5. You know, I just gotta get it out more and get it played. But like, it's a beautifully designed game, but not just that. It's a unique design game where like so much of that uniqueness really drives this game forward. So yeah, I definitely we're gonna play it, Aaron, because I think you'd love it. I think you'd love it. I guess just, you know, one caveat to people listening in, you know, if you know, you have a tendency for like some salty crash outs, you know what I mean? Maybe avoid this one, because like it definitely encourages some aggression. Mm-hmm. Taking the literal word from the card. Literally, definitely, you'll be losing some ships and you'll be taking some ships. So definitely just a little warning there. But again, such a good design.
I think it rewards more plays, to be honest. Like it's one of those games that like the more you learn what it is, like the more you want to play and the more you want to try things out, and like kind of the higher level play you can even do, right? You can start like negotiating stuff really well, like once you kind of learn the value of things, right? One thing that happened, because initially, like the first time we played, it was just like you get all these cards and then you're like, well, damn, I'm just building this round. But then we played one game where my friend, he stockpiled the weapons resource. He was hooked up. And then like every round, it didn't matter what cards he got, because he would just bust out one of his weapons and just like go to town. So like, it just really rewards like getting to know the game a lot more. And especially the campaign. We haven't even played the campaign yet, because like we were trying to get a couple games under our belts. Even with leaders and lore, there's still like a lot going on. There's a lot of interactions that are kind of hard to figure out, but luckily the rule book's amazing. But yeah, it's definitely, the well runs deep on this one.
Yep. Well, that's Arcs. If you haven't played it yet, run to your local game store and get it, because it's goated for sure. WAB Thoughts, the main topic of the episode. WAB Thoughts are here. Man, we came up with the spiciest, hottest topic that you've been waiting for. We wanted to talk about filler games. Now, some of our WABers might be wondering, well, what the heck is a filler game? You know what I'm saying? Well, we got the definition for you right here. So what are filler board games? They're going to be the shorter, lighter games. They're going to be easy to learn. Anyone can pick it up. Quick to play. Usually, they'll be like 5 to 30 minutes. Maybe even pushing the 40, 45-minute boundaries. But, those tend to be rare. They'll typically not take a long time to set these up. And the rule explanation, it'll be like 5 minutes tops. Maybe 10 at the most, but that's kind of really pushing it. They'll usually be used in between those really heavy Euros, the ones that fry your brain. Or, basically if, you're just kind of winding down the game night, throw a little filler in there. Filler might have like a sort of negative connotation, but definitely not. I think sometimes, filler games can be very enjoyable. They can be what kind of is the glue, right, to hold all these other board games together. So we decided, hey, you know what? I bet the Wobbers are just dying to know what filler games we here at WeAreBoard Podcast, which ones we take out on our game nights, which ones we like to play, and which ones we like to recommend. So, as we do, Victor, why don't you take it away? Let me know what type of glue you're playing with.
Bro, I was trying to think of like something highbrow, some fancy, or like a deep cut. And I was like, I gotta be honest, dude. Say Anything is a certified hood classic. Say Anything designed by Dominic Crapuchettes and Satish Pillamari, artist Ali Douglas. Now published by North Star Game Studio, but I think there's been a lot of publishers who've hopped on this and made their own version. But yeah, basically Say Anything it's like apples to apples if you played apples to apples, right? There's a judge, they're gonna put out a prompt, like a question, and then usually it'll be related to the judge. It'll be like, what would I hate the most in like X situation or something like that, right? Who's my favorite celebrity, or things like that. And then everyone gets to write their own answer, and then we flip and reveal, and then you get to vote on who you think the judge will pick. And then you can kind of score points like that. But mainly it's just about, just fucking around and having stupid answers. And just like, I don't know, we just had like so many laughs from this game. And like, you can also like learn a fair bit amount about people from like seeing what they pick, and then part of the game is like trying to figure out like who knows who. So especially if you're playing with like a partner, everyone turns to you and then it's like, oh, you better have the answer she picks or else what does that say about y'all?
Ah.
So yeah, this one's just a spicy one, a quick one, and just like, I don't know, we've definitely worn out the tape on this one. We've definitely worn out the markers on this one, and had to buy like separate markers.
So is this one you like still play to this day?
Yeah, I mean, I think not as heavy because we have played a ton, but like, I'm always kind of, get a little itchy trigger finger around it, always kind of bust it out, suggest it, But yeah, definitely there was a period of time where we played this one all the time. So I think maybe we're like in a little bit of a lull with it right now, but.
And I mean, it's $25, right? So like I guess that's another thing about filler games. They tend to be in the lower end of board games, and I know I've played this with y'all definitely multiple times, multiple WAB cons. Also get your tickets. They are on sale and you don't want to miss out. Well, that's Say Anything. For the next game, I'll cut in. I'll say my piece. It's a little game from a friend of the show called Spots, designed by John Perry. It plays 1 of 4 players. It says 30 to 45 minutes. I think honestly it'll take 30 minutes. Basically, Spots, it's going to be a push your luck dice game where players, roll dice to complete dog cards that are covered in colorful spots. On your turn, you get to choose from a set of like action tiles, and the game comes with a ton of action tiles, each offering, unique combinations. You can re-roll your dice, and then you can also bury your dice. But the thing is, if your buried dice exceeds 7, you basically bust, and you lose all the progress that you have on all your dogs that you haven't completed. Each dog card's going to have like different dice placement requirements, and players can have multiple incomplete dogs in play. Basically, it's a game about pushing, your luck and seeing how risky you can be by, rolling as many dice as you can. The way you win in the game is the first player who completes 6 dog cards wins the game. Have y'all had a chance to play it?
Not only do I get like routinely get my ass beat on BGA, but I got to actually get my ass beat in HD at our last WopCon. It's very fun because I have like no self control when it comes to push your luck. I either knock out all of my dogs at once or I just crash out, and your boy was just crashing out.
Yeah, dude. And like the 30 minutes, that's maybe like an average, a median, because you can go like way on either side of that. I had a game where like the dice weren't with us. They were like, y'all ain't going nowhere. There was a guy I think he was rolling 4 dice, and it's like all he has to do is roll a single 6, and like he wins the game. It's over. Rolled, got no 6s, spent a bone to re-roll. We're like, all right, well, he's got it. He's got 5 bones. He's gonna get it. Went through all 5 bones, busted, had to start over.
Oh yeah. And I feel like that happens so often, like where you think you have 1 die left to roll to be able to win the entire game. You look at your bones, and basically these bones allow you to re-roll the dice to get whatever, to try and get the one you want. And it's even happened to me. I'll have like 10 bones, and I just keep re-rolling, and I just don't get the number I need, and then I end up busting, and I lose all my progress, and it's like, bro, I had 10 bones.
Yeah, this game like simultaneously rewards the bold and the humble. Because like I've had so many games where I'm just like pushing my luck. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna stockpile these bones and I'm gonna go ham. I'm gonna show these people like being all careful. I'm gonna show them what this game's all about. And then like 3 crash outs later, the person just humbly building brick by brick gets the dub.
It's a really good design too when it comes to like push your luck, like the fact that you can, so there's 2 actions, or the way you can score the cards is either by walk or run, which basically means when you walk you're just like rolling dice, you complete a card, and then on your next turn you can just score that card. But when you run, if you complete all the cards that you currently have out, they automatically all score. So you don't have to waste a turn trying to score that card. So it's like insensitivizing you to push your luck and be able to score all the cards in one go.
And I just can't resist, dude. It's too tempting.
It really is. It really is. I think this one is another one that has come out multiple times at WAPCon. I think it's just the fact that it is a filler game that is able to kind of accommodate 4 players, and actually we ended up putting 2 copies together, didn't we? And we played it 8 players.
Yeah, well, it was like 2 separate games, I guess, of 4 players. We were just kind of playing like next to each other, and that game was hilarious because it's like on the one side of the table, everyone was being like, everybody was humble over there. They were all like, you know what, I got 1 dog. Next turn, I'm gonna score that dog. And then on our side of the table, we were just like, re-roll, just screaming, banging the table, just like flaming crash outs. And then on the other side of the table, they were just like, they were just having a grand old time. And I think their game ended much quicker than ours did.
Yeah, they finished 2 games, and it's hilarious because like that just seems to be kind of how it goes because it was your girlfriend, I think, what thought she was lady, and like 2 other people, and like anytime we were just getting like absolutely buck, they would just look and they'd just be like, Can you guys like stop throwing your dice over here?"
They were like, what game are y'all playing? Are y'all playing the same game?
Yep. Definitely a banger, and I just looked up the price. It's under $20. The amount of game you're getting for that, definitely highly recommend Spots. One of my favorite filler games out there right now. So that's Spots. So, Aaron, I know you got something. You always got something cooking. So let me know, what's your filler?
So my filler is the White Hot Flip 7. So Flip 7 is a 3 to 99 player push your luck game designed by Eric Olson, illustrated by O'Neill Mabel, and published by OP Games. So in Flip 7, you're basically playing blackjack, except you're not going to 21. So the deck is interesting because the numbered cards, whatever the number is, that's how many copies of it are in the deck. So it goes from 1 to 12. So there's 1 ones, 2 twos, 12 12 cards. And the game literally goes like this. The dealer asks, do you want to hit or do you want to stay? So if you hit, you get a card. And then you'll go around the table. Everybody does all their stuff. If you hit again, the only way you bust is if you get the same number card. So if like your first card is a 12, there's just chances that, there's a shit ton of 12s in the deck. So it's like, ooh, do I want to, keep pushing my luck and like say hit? Like, what are the chances of there being another 12? Then like your next card's like an 11. And it's just like, well, okay. Anytime you choose to stay, you tally up how many points are in front of you. So if you have a 10, an 11, and a 12, that's 33 points. And so you'll be out of the round. But here's where the game gets spicy. The reason why the game is called Flip 7 is anytime you flip 7 cards, not only does your board lock, but you get an additional, I think it's like an additional like 25 or 50 points. And so it's a huge incentive to just try to go like all the way up to the moon because the payoff is just so juicy. And so this is one of those D1 crash out games where I just have no self control because it's like a degenerate gambler where it's just like, okay, I'm gonna keep hitting, keep hitting, keep hitting. Ooh, I crashed. And I just see people getting like, 40 points here, 30 points here, 60 points here. And I'm just like, I could just get it all back if I just flip 7 cards. So keep hitting me. And it also adds like little
Gonna get
buffs.
it all back.
It adds little buffs to you as well. So like there's an extra life card that allows you to bust once and then you throw away the extra life card and then play past it. So you could essentially like be like, hey, I have like a free bust, and then next turn I'm gonna just take what the cards give me. Or I mean you could be, like a real one and just like keep going after that. I mean, of course you would. You also have a freeze where as soon as you draw a freeze card, you can freeze somebody's board. So if somebody is, like they have like a 2 in front of them, you can freeze them and all they're getting is 2 points. Or you can blue ball them and you see somebody with 6 cards, you freeze them just before they pop off. So it's like, yeah, they're going to get like quite a few points because you froze them with 6 cards, but they're definitely not going to get the plus 25 or plus 50. Then they also have like stuff where it's like, it'll be a times 2 multiplier plus just straight 15. There's also cards that like dilute the deck just a little bit, but the main crux of the game is you're trying to crash out to flip 7 cards.
Oh, dude,
Wow.
that sounds nuclear.
Oh, brother,
Yeah,
it goes straight feral. I ain't even gonna lie to you. We played it at I think it was just like I just had people over. We finished the game early, and just like how we were doing, like re-roll, re-roll. It was just basically just like pure pressuring people to hit, even though we knew they were gonna bust. It was just like, be a man, hit, be a man.
Might
wow.
have to make a trip.
How did you hear about this game, Aaron? Just curious.
So our boy Who John On is almost just like the master of the filler. He lets us get all the heavy games while he gets like the games that like the peanut butter games that just fill in the cracks of the board game night. So he had it, and so I was like, "Oh, this game's like kind of fire." I feel like it's a game where it's like a filler game, and filler games are obviously meant to get like people who aren't like hardcore board gamers or people who like aren't necessarily on the scene. Like it's to entertain them. And I was like, oh, this is like super sick. That I think I played that game for the first time it was well before WabCon last year, but I couldn't find it. And I was just like, is this game like this like actually like doesn't exist? I went through 2 buy 2 get one free from both friendly local game stores. None of them had it. I legitimately had to wait until I got it, I believe, in January of this year. And I was like, finally, I got my copy. But yeah, it was actually kind of a hunt to find this game.
Wow. And would you say that this would be a good one to be also used as a gateway game? Just because I'm thinking of spots, right? And I'm
Mhm.
like, yeah, I think spots could kind of serve as a double function where it's like a gateway game trying to introduce someone into more modern board games and also the filler role. Would you say the same for Flip 7 and I guess the other side of the coin for Victor for Say Anything?
I personally think it's almost like Balatro in a way, where it's like if I play Balatro, do I really want to play poker? No. Like I just want to play Balatro. If you play Flip 7, there's no really game to go after Flip 7. Like there's nothing to bridge that gap. So while it is a very, very fun game, I wouldn't consider it a gateway game because there's no like that gate doesn't lead anywhere because there's no other game like Flip 7.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no
Okay.
graduate. You're not graduating to flip 8.
Yeah,
Flip 9.
exactly.
To Flip 8.
Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Vic, with Say Anything?
I think with Say Anything, it's kind of like, I don't know, almost like a closed economy also, like it's the kind of game you might graduate to from playing apples to apples, but I wouldn't say necessarily you're going to graduate to like more modern, designer board games from Say Anything.
Gotcha.
I think you could over time, right? Like if you're just like, damn, we used to just, I don't know, talk politics or something, and now we're playing Say Anything, and it's like, oh, what other kind of games are there? Like, I guess you kind of have to like bring that yourself. It doesn't
Yeah.
like naturally lead to like other board games.
Yeah. And Aaron, for Flip 7, would you say it reminds you of like any other games that you've played before?
No, it just reminds me of like fun blackjack. And I like blackjack, right? And so it's just a different take on that. You're not really adding up to a certain number, but it does have the element of, I mean, if you stop now, you'll get points, but if you crash out, you just get 0 points. Well, it's literally just like the tortoise and the hare, where it's just like you see the economy of the table's points just like slowly going up. Your boy's at 0, then all of a sudden he's at like 120. So it's like it's very boomer bust,
Yeah,
and I just love it.
it's got a Vegas vibe.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I would say spots for sure though seems kind of gateway-ish because like it's gonna introduce these kind of mechanics that you're probably not used to. You got like these things for re-rolling, different abilities from the cards, and then like they're variable each game. Push your luck. That one definitely seems very gateway. I could see someone being like, what else they got going on?
It almost feels like it could be a gateway to Castles of Burgundy, where it's just like you're rolling the dice, you have like re-rolls, and you have to like actually place the dice. So it's just like it's not necessarily dice manipulation, but it is good usage of rolling the dice. Where can I place this dice and what can it do for me?
Ooh, yeah. That could be a smooth
Yeah.
transition.
So and I was curious. I went to go see how much you could get Flip 7 for right now. And the answer is you can't.
What?
So I guess just kind of wait it out, and hopefully it comes back in production, and you're able to cop it. But Flip 7 sounds like a lot of fun, so it's definitely one that I'm gonna keep an eye out on, because I feel like in my collection, I kind of went like literally the stereotypical board gamer type of vibe, where I went first. I started off with like all your like very common games, Ticket to Ride, Catan, just like all the common games that you would find anywhere. And then I went like all in on just Euros. Euro, and I was like, yeah, I just like Euros. But now I'm kind of like stepping back, reanalyzing life, seeing the leaves in the trees again, and I'm like, man, you know what? It's great that I have all these Euros, but like after I'm done playing like a 3.5 hour game, sometimes you want to cleanse the palate. But then I'm like, y'all want to hit another Lacerda? Like it just doesn't work, just doesn't work the same way. So I'm always looking for like new. In fact, sometimes I'm feeling so spicy that when I'm like, releasing my like giant order from Game Nerds or wherever I'm getting my board games from, I'll just randomly throw in some like games that look like they could be fillers, because they tend to be cheaper, and also it doesn't hurt to just try them out, right? Even if it's one I've never heard of, because like you never know, it could be the next Heat, right? So like, and I found some pretty cool ones that way. So definitely, I think small games like this that don't take so long are definitely making a comeback just all around. And yeah, Flip 7 is definitely one that's like on my to get list, because I've heard very good things about it, and everything you've said, Aaron, definitely has convinced me that I need to buy it. Not math trade it, not let the homie get it because we already have it. But I need to buy it.
Yeah, it's heat, brother. Like just finding it is the problem, and I think that it's almost like courtesans, where like for a while I bought courtesans pretty early, and then when I bought it, I told Crossover about it. He was just like, "I'm glad you told me because I just bought the last 2 copies because one of my homies also wanted it, and then now courtesans are back in the wild, but like for a hot 2 months, like there was no courtesans." And so it kind of feels that way with Flip 7. Like I don't I don't know where you can get Flip 7 for unless it's like maybe a math trade or something along those lines. So yeah, it's nice to be on this end of the acquisition train.
Yeah, and that's a good callback. Listen to our episode where we being Victor, he breaks it down for us on how to math trade makes you be the next master of math trading. So check that episode out. A little callback to that. Well, that's Flip 7. So we have discussed, we have fought. There has been blood, there has been tears, but we've come down to what we thought here at WeAreBoard Podcast. We decided what shared board games we should recommend for the filler category. So I'm gonna let Victor start things off with a little game called Things and Rings. Victor, the people want to know. Let them know.
We're going to let some naysayers know. This right here, designed by Peter C. Hayward, illustrated by Snow Conrad, published by All Play. Things and Rings is some pretty new heat. Came out in 2024. It was introduced to us by Aaron. I have no idea how Aaron found out about it, but this one right here, it's just like a quick little juicy one. You can be in and out of this game in like 15 minutes, but probably you're just going to want to play again. It's one of those that just like, once the dopamine starts hitting, you can just play this one over and over and over again. But this one is so it's for 2 to 6 players, but really you could play with like any number of players. It's just, it's how long do you want to wait in between turns. But basically you have one person who is called the knower, as in, they know things. They're gonna get a set of 3 cards. One card is called like the word attribute. One card's called the attribute, one is the word, and one is the context. And they'll say 3 different clues. So word will be about like, 6 to 7 letters long, right? And then attribute is like flammable. And then context will be like somewhere in this building, right? So you have these 3 clues basically that the knower knows and are secret. Everyone else has a hand of 5 cards that have just like random words on them with like an illustration, right? So it might be like mouse, race car, library, right? And then in front of you all is like a big 3-way Venn diagram, right? You have a yellow circle for word, blue circle for attribute, red circle for context. So initially the knower is going to put out 3 cards to try to give you all a starting point, right? And you'll be like, okay, so you got ice in the middle of the Venn diagram, matches all 3. Then you got library only in word, but not the other 2, okay? And then like gargoyle is like outside of the Venn diagram for none, right? And so then like, so you just have no idea. So you're just probably going to start off, you're going to put something down, and the knower will either give you a thumbs up if you put it in the right place, the exact right place of the Venn diagram, or they'll pick it up and move it to the right place. And if they pick it up and move it, then you draw a card and your turn's over. If you got the right place, you keep going, and the point of the game is to finish your hand of 5 cards, right? So it just starts going around the table. Everyone's like just trying to like piece together like, okay, is like, okay, a university, that's probably pretty similar to library. I'm gonna put it in the same spot, and then like, that's wrong. And you're like, what? So you're just trying to figure out like, okay, what's the difference between a university and a library, and then you start getting salty and you start yelling at the knower, being like, are you sure about that? Yo, double check that. But yeah, this one's just like really fun. You can just go around working your brain a little bit, but you'll probably finish and then you'll be like, run that back.
Easy. Those dopamine hits. Like, for those who need like a pretty easy connection, New York Times Connections is basically what this game is in board game form, where it's
Yeah.
like you have different levels of like heat. So like the 1 stars, like those are pretty easy. Like one of the descriptors is like this is normally brown or something along those lines, and so it's pretty easy to like get a good grip of it. So when I first brought it to WAPCon, we played like 3 1 stars, and everybody was like, "Oh, okay, we get it. Let's crank out the let's crank out three stars, and like that's like the hardest difficulty. And like it went from a game that lasted maybe like 5 to 10 minutes to like legitimately like a 45-minute brain burner because it was just like the most abstract three just weird because it's like with the words like for example for like the three like a 1 star word clue would be like hey this has like two letters right next to each other so there's not like so if you put will there and everything else is getting kicked out, it's just like okay, well there's two letters next to each other. But for like the 3 star ones, it's like the first three letters have to be like in ascending alphabetical order. And it's like what? Like without any type of context, you're just like, why is all of my stuff so wrong? And why is everybody else stuff so right? And no one knows what's going on. Oh my god, I love it. Like, oh, this game is so goated.
Ugh, dude, I remember we just started colluding on that one because everyone like is secretly, making their own theories and then putting their stuff down. And on that one, I remember like everyone was like, "We don't know the word. Figuring out the word is impossible." But some people were like, "I think I figured out attribute or I figured out context." And I was like, "Okay, the only thing I figured out is a word, and I know nothing else. I have zero clue." So I was just like, "Hey, man, let's why don't you come over here to the side and let's make a little deal, cause like we got to figure this out, man. we are getting nowhere."
Yeah, we're getting deep fried cooked. And like I was guessing with Wadashua, and I'm just like, he's a really smart guy. I looked at Wadashua and I was like, dude, do you have any idea what's going on like you normally do? He looked at me dead in my eyes and he was like, I have no fucking clue what's going on. And I was like, oh no.
Yeah, I remember I played this at BGG Con with you, Victor. You taught it to me, and I guess just to kind of reiterate and echo what y'all had said, it's one of those games where like I don't even think we were keeping track of like how to score or anything, but it was just fun to play.
Yeah.
Like just everyone kind of guessing and trying to get the word. It was just like to this day I don't think I know how scoring works on this, but it's still just like really fun to play. So I definitely really enjoyed this one.
Yeah.
How many WABs would you give this though, Vic? You know what I'm saying?
Ooh, WABs out of 5?
Yeah.
I think it's got to be. I don't know. I never really rate board games at all because like my opinion will change over time, but it's got to be at least a hot 4 out of 5 stars minimum. 4.5 maybe. I don't know.
Damn, my boy loves
He's
this
like
game.
I never rate, but
Yeah, because
hear
like
me out.
I could rate a game today and then 3 years from now I'm just like, yeah, I don't really want to play that anymore. And then I'm not gonna go and update my rating to like 3 stars or something. The only game I rated on BGG actually is Night Shift.
Hey, just give it some love.
Yeah, because there were so many ones at the time. I think BGG like cleaned it up a little bit, and they got rid of some of like the kind of fake reviews. But I was just like, yo, let's support.
Well, that's Things and Rings. It's got that WeAreBoard Podcast approval rating. Now, Aaron, there was another one, that was in the back of all of our heads. First Contact. Can you take it away, King?
Yes, King. So, First Contact, published by Cosmodrome Games, is a cooperative and somewhat competitive deductive game that challenges players to overcome a language barrier between a team of 4 Egyptian players and a team of up to 3 alien players. So each turn, the Egyptian team asks the aliens to draw a word in their language using a shared grid of like a 5 by 5 grid of words in front of them. So the alien team will then consult, then draw a symbol for that word, and then the humans take down the notes, and then like it goes through all the humans. After all the humans ask for a little bit of context of their words, the aliens used symbols in their language to draw out what they want from the same 5 by 5 grid because it's almost like they're doing like a little Amazon shopping. So they want to have the humans pick out their Amazon order and like give it to them. And so the way the points works are The aliens have like their little Amazon list, and once one alien fills up his Amazon list, he's like, "All right, cool, I win from the alien side." And so humans get points based on how many gifts they give to the aliens that are correct on their Amazon order. So once one alien's just like, "All right, cool, I'm ready to check out and like leave Earth," I win. And so it's like how many humans have favor tokens from all the aliens who they've been helping, and it's like, well, that human wins, and that's it. So this game is one of those games where it's always a pain to teach because it's so abstract. Like explaining it on a podcast where you don't have like any materials in front of you is kind of like just giving it like a gist of the game, and it's like, yeah, okay, it's kind of easy, but like once you're like staring down the beast like in the eyes, you're just kind of like, what is even going on? What are these hieroglyphics? How is this happening? But once you get over like the first learning game, like you basically have to like have, it's almost like making a pancake. You got to get one bad one out of the way, and after that, it's time to cook. And we played this at I think WAPCon 2024. Like the first round was just kind of like getting the introductories in, like kind of learning how to play, and then after that, we were just cooking. So boy, we were wearing the tape off this bad boy. It's the same thing here with the with the Dallas homies. It is, I would say, the codename killer because, in my opinion, codename there's like one guesser and then just like one hint giver, right? And this, you're both the guesser and the hint giver. And so it's cool because when the humans are asking for like language, like words in your language, you all kind of collude together. So it's like if they touch, like an ox, they touch an elephant, and they touch, you know, I don't know, like a lion, and the three words on your board are dangerous, big, and alive. Like you as the aliens have to like go band for band and be like, what do they actually what do they want us to send them? And you come to like a unanimous consensus and you show it to them. So the human might be like, yo, that's clearly living. I want living. We give you the sign for big. And then another person who's taking notes because it's all open information is just like, oh, that can't be living. That has to be like dangerous. So everybody's giving what they think is the right information, and it's just wrong on all three fronts. Like it is amazing because those same notes that you give the humans, you have to turn around as the aliens and give those same hieroglyphics. So if you want something that is the big alive thing, aka the lion, like half the humans are just like that's dangerous. So like they don't want something that's dangerous, they have to, want something else. So it's a lot of miscommunication, but when that game is clicking and you and the aliens vibe right or you and the humans vibe right, it's mad butter.
Yeah, I remember playing this at that exact WopCon, and I admit, when you were explaining it, I was like, "Yo, this looks straight up like hieroglyphics to me," cause it kind of is, you know what I'm saying? But it was like I don't know what's going on. But after playing it, we played it multiple times, and definitely, I would say that it just requires a one-time playthrough. Just play it once, understand it, and then that second time, it all kind of clicks together after the fact. But yeah, I think I'll even agree with your hot take. I do think that this is a much better code names. I think if you're into code names and you want something a little spicier, with a little more meat in it, I definitely recommend First Contact. That's my thoughts on First Contact.
Yeah, dude, the design was amazing. It was like you said, like you're trying to get it, and you're like, huh? Like this doesn't seem like it's gonna work as a game. And then the moment you start cooking, you're like, oh yeah, what y'all aliens want? I got what you need right here. I'm in it. It's amazing, like the way it clicks together. It definitely left me like wanting to play a shit ton more, and I haven't played since. So I might have to get my own copy.
Oh,
Ooh,
that
perhaps
yes.
Math Trade?
Ooh.
Math Trade?
Math Trade. Because yeah, that game is readily available, even if you can't find it in Austin. I pass First Contact so much where I'm just like, ooh, people don't know. Those boys got dust on the shelf, but if only they knew how heat it was. But
If only they
yeah,
knew.
it definitely is something where you gotta have a person who can, like break down rules and really walk people through because yeah, that's one of the more punishing teachers that I've gone to for a game that's like not even that heavy. Like I feel like once you get over learning the game, it might be like a 1.5 and like wait, but like the teacher's brutal.
Yeah, and I'm assuming you've probably taught this multiple times, right,
And it
Aaron, to
doesn't get
multiple
easier.
people?
It does not get easier because it's like when it would be. I think the easiest way to do it would be like if everybody has played Codenames, I have somewhere to start from. But normally it's just like either one or two people haven't played Codenames, and I'm like, okay, so I have to like kind of explain what Codenames is because like explaining this game from scratch is just it's too conceptual. It's literally just like, all right, well, what we're gonna do is you don't know anything about our language. You're going to touch these things to figure out one of the words on your board, and we will talk about it, and we might give it to you. And they're just like, "Why would we play this game?" And I'm like, I get where you're coming from, but this is just what the game is.
You gotta believe me. I swear it's gonna be fun.
Literally, it's like that in Tragedy Looper. I'm just like, it's fun. Please believe me.
Oh, yeah, we gotta bring up Tragedy Looper in another podcast
Yes,
because I think that one definitely deserves some yapping.
yes,
Unrelated to this, of
yes.
course. But I do have two questions for you regarding this game.
Pop off.
Just because I'm curious, have you played with only 2 or 3 players? Because I see that it has like a special variant for that.
I personally haven't because the first time we played with 6 people. And everybody who played are the only people who are just like, yo, First Contact is lit. We should play First Contact. And anytime I brought in even one person, everybody's just kind of like, oh, wow, like, we thought it was hard to teach, but like, it's almost like telling an inside joke. It's just getting people up to speed in scope is just it's kind of hard. And even if you get them up to scope, there are just some games that people don't click with. And that's kind of the danger of like these abstract games where it's like, this is very fun. But like if this game just does not click with you, it's almost like it's a waste of 30 minutes of explaining it. And then it's also a waste of your time of you like not playing a game you've never played before. And it actually genuinely isn't fun. You know what I mean?
And I guess my second question for you, Aaron, was how'd you hear about this game? Like, what made you get this game?
So there is a board game YouTube show called No Rolls Barred, and this dude had it on his top 10 deduction game. So I learned about this game, So Clover, and Tragedy Looper all in the same video. And so I was like just taking copious amounts of notes and being like, oh, okay, like this seems interesting. And then the thing that sold it for me was he was just like, it's almost like First Arrival, and I actually really liked that movie. And he was like, and also if you've ever played Code Names and you like that, this game is like a vastly superior version of it. And I was like, well, I do, kind of like Code Names. I think it's a little too simple, but I do, want to see if like there's a heavier version of Code Names. And like once again, outside of the teach, that's probably the only thing that's heavier. But at the end of the game, like you're just still playing Code Names, but now you're both the guesser and the clue getter. So you're playing both roles of Code Names at the same time. And it's also just very lolsy.
Cool. Well, that's First Contact. Actually, right now it's for $15.
It's
That's a
steal.
steal.
It's a steal.
So go check that out. Again, local game store, check them out. So support them. So the We Are Board podcast fillers, we got ourselves a little First Contact, some Things in Rings, Flip 7, Say Anything, Spots. You can't go wrong with any of those. Go check them out. Hey yo, is that a shining star? Nah, it's just a spotlight of the week. All right, spotlight of the week. As always, my boy Victor cooking in the lab. Tell us, what do the Wobbers need to know? They're demanding it.
I mean, it's what's on everybody's minds. AI, baby. It's coming.
Ooh.
It's coming
It's here.
fast and hard. So I honestly thought there'd probably be more AI in board games by now, but there hasn't been a ton. Um, but I guess first we can differentiate because it can be very important sometimes, like to
True.
differentiate between what's like the generative AI people are talking about and what's just like machine learning algorithms. So basically, any of these things people are talking about, it's like you take an algorithm and you train it on a set of data, right? And you tell it, look at this data, spit out a result. We'll give you like a yes or no, and then it'll kind of like do something random, and then like see if that gets better results or not, right? I think the spicy part just comes into what that data it's getting trained on is, you know. If it's just like, oh, this is just like publicly accessible, like flight data, weather data, scientific facts, protein structures or whatever, then it's like, sure, whatever, pop off. It's just whenever it's like scraping people's art from the internet, blog posts that where people get like, well, this is like something creative I made, and now it's part of like this algorithm without me getting a choice, right? So I think that's what I would call like generative AI that's like trained on publicly scraped data, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's usually where people have a problem. But so now, of course, you have Kickstarter has a disclosure policy where you have to say, what did I use AI on? And like, what kind of AI was it? Like, did I have consent for all the data, right? Like, if it's just like, well, I just had all my own data and I plugged it in and I like ran like a machine learning algorithm on it, that seems like less big of a deal. So I guess like there's even like tools going around that are like, oh, like use this for your board games, and I've seen people like experiment with it on YouTube. Wasn't like massively successful, but people are saying like, oh, you should be able to use this to like start like prototyping your game, and have like an initial set of rules, right? Or you could use it to like write all like the kind of scenarios or whatever if you have a game that needs a lot of writing, right? That has a lot of text or like descriptions or like fun facts about things, right? It's like, oh, look at this piece of art and like write like a little witty caption. And then of course art, right? It could like generate art for the game. So I guess for you guys, if you guys see a Kickstarter and you're thinking about backing it and they say we've used AI for some sort of the process, like what are the things I guess that would affect your opinion of it, right? Like is it like the rules, art, or the writing? Like what would affect your opinion?
That's a great question. So for me, I think it really comes down to the publisher that is using AI. If I see Come On Games or Seem On Games using AI, I'm not backing it. They are big enough to be able to hire designers, artists, creative minds to create this content, unique content, right? If it's a small publisher, maybe first printing, I could see them having to rely more on AI just because maybe the funds are not there. Um, but I still, I don't know, something about it still kind of just like doesn't sit right with me fully when it comes to him like putting it on board games.
Yeah, I was going to say, I actually disagree. So I agree with the big publishers. It's just like, yeah, just pay the people, don't take shortcuts. However, I actually backed a game that used generative AI as art. So it was called The Queen's New Capital, and it's by this dude who was just like, hey, I am going to be just like, I'm going to keep it 100. I'm using generative AI because I don't know how to do Kickstarter stuff, and I don't want to spend most of the funds paying artists when I don't know what I'm doing. And I was just like, well, the game looks chill. And the game is very, very fun. And so he was just like, hey, I got just enough money to fund the game I really want to do. So I'm not creating retail editions. So the people who got this game, congratulations. When I let y'all know, when I get everything set up for my next campaign, support your boy, put my name out there. We come in with some heat. So his next Kickstarter is an anime game where you basically are just trying to create an anime. And so all of the art used in that one, he was just like, yo, not only did I partner with actual Japanese up and coming manga artists, but we got some cameos from some real hood homies. So I think the person who did, I think like Paranoia Agent, he even had like like a small role in either guiding the art or something along those lines. And I was just like, see, this is how you do it. Because it's like if you don't have the funds to do it, like your idea just becomes an idea. And if he didn't use generative AI, who knows if I would have got like this dope ass game. And then also, who would have known he would definitely wouldn't have gotten the money to actually pay, fund, and then also promote the artist, because he's also so like you can buy the game, the anime game, and then you can also pay extra to get like all the artwork from all of these artists. And he was just like, all those funds go to them. So when it's stuff like that, and you're super communicative about it, it's almost just like you got to spend money to like you almost have to like save money to spend money. So when it comes to stuff like that, I don't see a problem with it. It just depends on like how you communicate it and like what you actually end up doing.
Yeah, I think if it's like totally self-published, then it kind of makes some sense. I still would be like hesitant to back it, right? Because part of like the Kickstarter, which doesn't really happen anymore, but it used to be like you have this idea and you're like, I want to kickstart like the process of making it, right? Which it isn't really like that at all for board games these days. It's like, here is the finished product. We've done all the design, we've done all the art. The only thing we haven't paid for is production, right? Because we don't know how many to make, right? So I could imagine where it'd be like, well, okay, use generative AI for the campaign, but once you have the money, then or even if it's like a stretch goal, a stretch goal, if we make this much, we'll pay an artist to make actual art for the game or whatever. So yeah, it's still, I would only leave it for like super indie kind of guys.
Yeah, and I don't know about y'all, but like I spend so much time with AI, like using it. Like I feel like now, like even seeing it, it's like it almost stands out in a bad way a lot of the time, especially with imagery. It's like it's kind of almost obvious, like and there's just something off about it that really kind of just like puts it down for me, I guess. It just doesn't look the same as if a designer would actually do it themselves.
Yeah, it always feels like, I guess you don't realize how much when you're looking at like a piece of art of any form, that it's like so much of it, I guess, is like the fact that someone like made this and like put their time into it, Like we're not all like perfect art critics that will be like, yes, this is clearly of quality. It's like a lot of times it's just like, I just think it's cool, like this person made this, and that they're really passionate about this, and a lot of times you'll look at the AI version or whatever, and it's like, well, I guess you can just judge it like purely on the merits, but then you just feel like, I don't know, I'm not like some grand critic that's gonna like know like what's good and bad necessarily and have my own preferences. But then it's like, well, and then it also just like there's extra fingers everywhere and stuff, and like it's
and I think you're bringing up a really good segue, because it's getting to the point where like the familiarities of like specific artwork that is AI generated is identical to like other artists' works that are like, that are, I guess, patented, right? Or like basically, I guess, like Ghibli is coming to mind.
Yeah.
You have, and I'm sure you have something to talk about that, but basically like AI You know, you can go on AI today and create your own Studio Ghibli artwork. And, you know, it's basically like where's that line drawn where it's like, oh, well, you know, it's AI generated, but also it's basically that same artwork.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
that's what feels bad. Is that like they don't have any choice in like stopping that. Every single board game on the planet could be like, make this Studio Ghibli art style, you know, and there's nothing Miyazaki could ever do to prevent that from happening. And it feels especially bad with Miyazaki because there's like a famous video of someone showing him like, oh, we use like a machine learning algorithm to teach this like computer model to walk, but because like it has no concept of like pain or, you know, like it has a head and arms and legs, but it doesn't know like what's what. The head doesn't hurt more than like a foot to land on the ground, you know? So it just like walks whatever. It's just like, you know, I just have like 5 legs and then I have like a waist or whatever and knees and I can use all that. So it just like walks in very creepy ways. You like using its head as another leg. Its legs are crossed because like it has no reason to like uncross the legs, you know, there's no need to.
Yeah.
And they're showing this to Miyazaki and he's like, I'm utterly disgusted. I would never use this in my work. And then the guys are just in tears because they're just like, well, we didn't mean anything by it. And then they're like, well, so what's your goal in like doing this stuff? And this was years ago. And they were like, well, we want to build an algorithm that can create art like humans do. And then like the room just goes silent and like Miyazaki's just like staring a hole into them. And then the documentary cuts to Miyazaki like talking and he's saying, I think the end times are near.
Dang.
So it's like a specifically Studio Ghibli Miyazaki. Like there's nothing he can do about it. Even the White House is like posted Studio Ghibli art, like a Studio Ghibli version of them deporting a woman. And it's like, this is not what he wanted.
Yeah, and I know Miyazaki's definitely been vocal about how much he does not like AI. But yeah, I mean, kind of like you just said, you know, it's like, can it be stopped? Should it be stopped? You know, like I think it won't be because I think people will back it, you know, regardless. I definitely, if anything, I don't know, I feel like more of it is coming, you know, and AI is just getting better and better anyways, so.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that there hasn't been more necessarily, you know, I guess big publishers are still shying away, except for the Terraforming Mars campaign. I think they were kind of the first ones to disclose they used AI. And I think it hurt the number of backers they had. Like if you look at the backers they had on that campaign compared to other ones, I think it kind of hurt them, you know, like a couple thousand, you know, maybe like 5,000-6,000 less than they usually do. That might have just been people got tired of so much Terraforming Mars. And also at that point, Arc Nova was already out, the Terraforming Mars killer. So I don't know if that just like that was part of it. But yeah, so far people are shying away from it. Like big publishers. And one thing that I found was really interesting that could be part of the reason is that there's already a bit of a problem with like counterfeiters making copies of board games. Like once a board game is public, you know, they can like find a PDF of all the files, or they can go and buy their own copy and like do scans of it and then start selling copies of it, right? Like on Amazon or something like that. Because Amazon does a pretty bad job of like weeding out counterfeits like that. You have to report it, and yet like as the publisher, you know, or the owner of the game, and they will get rid of it like when they get to it, right? And then they can go sell it somewhere else. They can make another listing. They can make another account. So it's already like a bit of a problem, you know. And like people lose trust. They're like, hey man, like I got this copy of the game and it's just like low res. And then they get mad at the publisher, and the publisher's like, we have no idea what you're talking about. What's interesting is that at the moment, for board games, you can't copyright the mechanics of a board game, right? You can't be like,
Right.
the idea of putting a worker on a spot that's copyrighted to, Lords of Waterdeep or whatever, or Stone Age. You can't copyright that. So typically the only thing that's really copywritten is the art. But you can't copyright AI art at the moment. This is all like still pretty new. But let's say you have a board game and it's all AI art. There's almost like nothing that you can really copyright about that. So then the counterfeiters take all the stuff that you made. I'm not sure like if you could even get that taken down.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the worry at the moment. Maybe that's why it hasn't popped off as much yet.
Yeah, you brought up that terraforming Mars scandal, and that was a huge, because it was like one of the first things that, or they were one of the first campaigns that started using AI, and actually that's where I read a lot of that pushback, where it was like, how is it that, you've had an evergreen, terraforming Mars forever now, you've gotten all this money from it, and remember, on the original Terraforming Mars, they didn't even use like their own pictures. I think it was all stock images for the cards.
Yeah, and it was kind of cool because
like
they took public images from like NASA or something like that, and it's like, well, that kind of makes sense. Some of them aren't great pictures, but like, I kind of get the vibe.
Yeah, well, they try to do it again, but with AI this time. And everyone was like, yo, I mean, this, like, at this point, it was like, yo, you've made like millions off with this game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to kind of be like, oh, well, we're just going to use AI instead of paying a designer to, draw or create our stuff. It's like, come on. Like, the difference in quality, I think, is still there when it comes to AI versus a real human being.
Yeah. And it seems like so far, like, for the most part, board gamers, I think, are like, the people who are on Kickstarter, they're like pretty invested and involved in all this stuff. I think I've been seeing a lot of people like falling for like AI baddies on Twitter and like, following their OnlyFans and then not realizing that it's AI. But it's like the people who are like playing board games, I feel like just tend to be more in the know about these things. So like no one's usually tricked. Like you have to, like, we know if you're using AI or not. There's not really people getting like away with it. So it seems like so far that's what has been holding it back. But like you said, if AI does improve, maybe that'll change over time. People can get away with it. So there's kind of two stories that kind of come off of that. So one is there's a very small company called, or not, I don't know how small they are. Maybe I shouldn't say that. But Woodstock Games, right? They have a couple games out. One called Dice Fights. They wanted to come out with another game called Terraform. And basically the guy was like, well, we're like very small. We have like one game out. We don't have like a ton of money to spend on art. So that's one risk, right? When you're using an artist, that you're like, okay, I want the game to be like medieval themed. Then you get the art and you're like, shit, you know what? Maybe medieval's not the right theme for this. Maybe we should go like sci-fi. You still have to pay for the art, even if you didn't like it. So that's one thing people say about AI is it can help you prototype stuff, right? But basically they were like, you know what? It seems like board gamers are pretty against AI. So we're going to go ahead and like use an actual artist. They ended up going with someone on Fiverr, right? That would be like foreign, because they found an artist in Sri Lanka. And they were like, well, that's going to be cheaper than someone like US based, right? Someone who's US based has to buy food in the US and pay rent in the US. So they're going to need a little bit more money. So they found someone in Sri Lanka, they liked their stuff. They got like some of the art made and they're like, oh, you know what? Give us some more. Oh, you know what? Okay, now do the cover, So they did all that. They printed like a test run and they went to a game convention to like start generating hype for the game, try to sell a couple of copies before they made like another big print run. And he gets to the convention, and then people are like, hey, was this made using AI art? And he's like, no, we got an art. Like, here's the artist, here's like their information actually.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay. And then just, he said throughout the con, like, especially someone else, like, who he kind of brought in for the con to help him out, like, was just like, well, look at this right here. Doesn't this look kind of like, and he basically, like, I guess he was kind of like biased against it. Like, he didn't want to believe it because he had paid this person, maybe like $5,000-$6,000 to generate all this art. And so then afterwards he would like went to the person. He's like, did you use AI for this? And they denied it. But I think he just got to the point where it's just like, it is AI. Like, there's no use lying to ourselves anymore. It's AI, and if we try to do like a huge print run with this, everyone's going to be like, oh, you used AI. And then, there's going to be backlash. So like, I guess there's artists out there now who will be like, hey, you want that real, you can pay me. And then they use AI, so it's like, it's starting.
Dang, that is terrible. That sucks.
They straight up were like, we just don't even have the money to like pay another artist to do this stuff. They're just putting the game on the shelf in the meantime and like are trying to generate revenue from like their other game to cover getting new art. So it's just been on the shelf for like, I think they were talking about this like months ago. They were trying to get it like printed in April, and they're just like, yeah, it's just on the shelf right now till like more money comes in.
And that's for Terraform?
Yeah, the game is called Terraform, which I don't know. Maybe they can change the name in the meantime, because like that's a risky name to have. Terraform Mars is just gonna like suck up all your Google search results.
Yeah. Man, that is a crazy story. That really sucks. I hadn't heard of any of that. That's wild. I think it's a great point. I think even artists themselves are starting to use this, to their advantage and be like, oh yeah, I drew all the art, but in reality it's like, did you actually? I don't know about that.
Yeah, there was a similar controversy with Wizards of the Coast, who also like paid an artist, right, to like do stuff, and then the artist secretly used AI, and this was like pretty early on, so I guess like it didn't seem like such a big of a deal back then. So he wasn't even necessarily hiding it. He just used AI and didn't really talk about it. Then they, unless, Wizards of the Coast lied and just threw this guy under the bus. But then the game, they released this stuff. This was just like an online release. And then people were like, hey, you used AI for this. And they were like, no, here's the artist. And the artist was like, yeah, I used like AI to kind of like touch it up. And they were like, ugh. And so they had to like pull all that art and then be like, we promise to never use AI going forward.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, so it's kind of it's getting pretty spicy out there. So it's not only like if people want to use AI, it's like you might pay an artist and that artist might use AI without telling you.
But it's an artist.
It's an artist. They got paid. But yeah, so it's funny. So you're saying like as AI gets better, it might be harder to even like detect this stuff, right? There are like theories going around that's like, we don't know that AI is going to keep getting better. Like it was getting better, just kind of like with any like tech thing, right? But the way AI works is like, or the way it has worked in the past is like the more data you give it, the better it will get, right? And the longer you train it, the better it gets. But like, it's like, is that curve of improvement, is it like a straight line? Like the more you train, is it like equally better? Is it exponential, where like the more you get, the faster it starts to improve? Or is it kind of logarithmic? Is it just like, does it kind of just hit like a point of diminishing returns, where it's like you can keep training it and it'll get slightly better, but the more you train it, the less of an improvement you start getting over time, and then you basically hit a wall that like humans can realistically spend like GPUs training on something, and it's like, okay, we're gonna have to train this thing for like 5 years to get like a less than 1% improvement.
I mean, I think I could see it both ways. I think it just really depends on the pool of data that you're giving it, right? But
the pool of data is now going to include other AI, generated content.
yeah, I mean, it would depend on how picky you are with your data, right? I mean, there's a lot of moving factors. So like if you're throwing in just random data, where it's coming from everywhere, yeah, I mean, I wonder how much AI generated data is out there right now, right? Like I mean, we've had AI pop off for maybe like 2 years now, maybe. I mean, it's been around for a little longer than that, but like actually popping off and throwing stuff into the internet for maybe 2 years, and I'm sure there's got to be a lot already out there. So yeah, no, I mean that's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah, we don't really know yet, but like essentially that's what happened to ChatGPT. They kind of hit a wall, and it took them a long time to release like version 4 versus like the jump from 2 to 3, right? The jump from 2 to 3 was like a huge jump, and it came out pretty quick. And then they released 4, and it took them longer to release 4, and it wasn't like as much better than the jump from 2 to 3, right? But like I guess the positive, the silver lining for the AI hype people out there, China basically came in and mogged the hell out of everyone in America, and they're like, bro, we didn't even train this thing like nearly half as long as y'all did. We just figured out a better way to train. So that might be the only way forward, but still, like, you might end up back in the same place. You figure out a better way to train, and then you hit that wall again. So it's not necessarily clear.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's time will tell, right? But it is interesting because you're right. ChatGPT did take longer to come out with 4 than it did from 2 to 3, so that is very interesting. So I guess like out of all of that, right? Do you guys believe that AI is here to stay for board games?
I think it depends on the landscape because it's like you could definitely see like if these tariffs especially are forcing people to try to like outsource and cut costs as much as they can. Like that's like an actually viable thing to do. So we'll see. Hopefully, I mean, hopefully it's just like the very, very rare cases that they do, or it's more so just like writing and if you like play testing and strategy and like helping on like the super, super back end stuff. I feel like AI is super useful for that, but when it comes to like the art, although I don't mind it for like super indie users who are just trying to go from point A to go to point B, I don't necessarily mind that. But outside of that, it's just like, come on, dog, pay the people.
Yeah, I think it basically depends on public opinion because like it's very hard to trick board gamers. Basically, we're like too invested in this. We're too sophisticated.
Yeah.
We're too smart. We're too beautiful. Our brains are too big. Obviously this is like already completely taken over Facebook, and like, the boomers are just like interacting with nothing but AI algorithms on there. There's already like quite a bit on like Twitter and Instagram, but younger people can like detect this stuff like pretty easily, a lot better than older people can, it seems like. It almost seems like that's going to have to start being like something we train people on. It's going to have to start being like a class in high school is like AI detection. But I think there always will be some AI in games. I think there's already some games that actually use AI as part of the mechanics. So Pictionary came out with a version called Pictionary AI, where you normally Pictionary, you draw a picture and someone trying to guess what the word you're trying to say is, right? The way this one works, I think, I haven't like fully checked out the rules, but it seems like you draw a picture with AI, or you draw a picture, and then everyone tries to guess if the AI will correctly guess the word or not. I don't know what kind of like data it was trained on. Like if it was just like the company created all their own data, and then like fed it into the game, then it's like, okay, that seems like pretty reasonable. If it's like talking to ChatGPT or something, people might feel like a little different about it. It's like, damn, that's burning up a lot of GPU cycles out there.
It's funny you say that because Google has its like kind of the same type of game you're talking about, Pictionary AI. It's called quickdraw.withgoogle.com, and basically it does the same thing, but this time Google's AI is benefiting from that, right?
Yeah.
You try to draw something, you let the AI try to guess what you're drawing, and obviously it's using all this data to learn from it and basically make Google's AI smarter, right? So
free training.
Very, very interesting, which kind of leads me to question, right? I mean, I know why Google's doing this, right? For their AI, for their benefit, to Gemini AI, use that, right? But what is Pictionary trying to do? Like, what, like, you know what I mean? Like, what are they doing with the data that they are collecting? Because a lot of people don't realize this is all like collection of data, right?
Yeah.
This is all just a mass data lake. And so it's basically just passing all this data through the neural network. But basically, what are these companies doing with it? And why does Pictionary, owned by Mattel, why do they need that? What is their AI up to? So it's just a little. Let's put on our full hats and like get a little conspiracy. But yeah, I just when you were saying that, it reminded me that Google has basically the exact same version of that. So interesting to see that.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, Pictionary is published by Mattel, so who knows what kind of crazy stuff they're cooking.
Literally, it could be anything.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they themselves are just throwing AI into their designs now, right? I mean, they have games that are so big, so popular, that are the ones that are, I guess less modern board games, but more what people are used to seeing. I could definitely see them throwing AI and being like, hey, here's the flavor of the month. Here's a, Shrek-themed Mattel board game. But with AI, it's just like I definitely see them moving that way. Like definitely don't see them feeling bad about using AI at all. To be honest,
that's a really good point, because I feel like that's kind of, at least in video games, that's kind of been the way things have gone, where like the big AAA games aren't really like taking over the market like they used to. It's just like some random developer with a random, like, really cool idea, just making something crazy and hilarious in Unity, and then everyone's playing that for like a month, and then that developer makes a ton of money, and then like everyone moves on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Like recently, Schedule 1, it's literally one guy. It's the name of the studio is Tyler's Video Game Studio. It's just.
Yep.
It's just one guy. He just has a Trello board. Like when you submit bugs,
I've seen it.
It goes to his Trello board.
Yep.
And it's like, the same way that the studios are like being like, damn, we spent like 20 years developing this game, and like we never bothered to make it good. We just spent a bunch of time on it. I could see them basically like pivoting to being like, let's just crap out a bunch of stuff, with just like goofy ideas. It's like, okay, AI, make me a Shrek game with the IPs that we currently own, and then just see what sticks.
Exactly.
And something might, but that could be where it's heading.
Yep. No, exactly. And you bring up a good point with the video games, right? Because like GTA 6 has been hyped up to coming out for 1 million years now. Their budget's around $2 billion. I just Googled it.
Ooh.
And I'm like, I wonder, for a game that they've spent so much money on, if it's going to have any AI in it. You know what I mean? Or anything created by AI. I don't know.
I feel like that would be like such a huge shotgun to the foot,
Yeah.
It'd be like,
No, I agree.
They should say that for GTA 7, if they want to do that. It's like they worked too hard on this for like some controversy to like take it down. Because I feel like they always deliver. So I'm excited. I can't wait to play it myself. But like, if it was AI, I'd be like, you know what? I don't know, man. But I kind of doubt it. I feel like most of the development happened before AI had really popped off. So it's like they've probably just been like working on like stability and bug fixes and stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's AI. Victor, do you have any closing thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think that my closing thought on this one is that like I think it's going to be hard for AI to give us something new. I think most is going to be like it's going to pump out a bunch of like lower quality stuff, but it's going to help some people like get their foot in the door that couldn't before, maybe. But there might be like a lot more trash to wade through. And I think like the thing that demonstrated it really well for me is there's this YouTuber I like called Alex O'Connor who does a lot of like other content, but he messes a lot with ChatGPT. He like really tortures ChatGPT. I think if it ever becomes sentient, he's like first on the beheading list. But one thing that he had a video that popped off that was like, "Hey ChatGPT, make a glass of wine that's full to the brim," and it can't. It absolutely cannot draw you a glass of wine that's full to the brim because all the training data, like classically, glasses of wine are not filled to the brim. So there are just like not very many pictures of that. So it's never trained on that. So it's like it can put different things together, but it almost can't give you things that people haven't thought of before in some way. So keep on supporting the creatives out there, like be careful with all the AI stuff, I mean, I use it for like memes and shit. I'll make like goofy pictures, but it's probably like humans who are probably going to come up with like the crazy new ideas that are really going to get you going.
Yeah, and shout out to Brian Balladis, the painter of the WeAreBoard Podcast show. So go check out his art, go support it. Be valid as art on Instagram. We got to support the people that are not using AI for the memes anyways, you know what I'm saying? So thanks for that spotlight of the week, Victor. That's AI in board games. Oh, at last, our final segment of the show. We are sad to hear it, but we're excited for Aaron to present this to us. It is BMW time. Let's go.
So we're starting our BMW series off hot. So just a reminder, BMW is an acronym for buy it, math trade for it, or wait for the homie to get it. We're going to be going through some of the hottest games on BGG based on their hotness ranking. So the first game we are looking at is Vantage. This is designed by our main man, Jamie Stagmeyer, and published by Stonemeyer Games. So in Vantage, it is his take on an open world cooperative adventure game for 1 to 6 players that features an entire planet to explore, with players communicating while scattered across the world. So it's almost like a little Tower of Babel vibe, you know what I'm saying? So, with nearly 800 interconnected locations on 400 cards and over 900 other discoverable cards, this world is your sandbox. So, it's essentially Jamie's take on a mix of both The Sims and No Man's Sky. So, looking through this game, it looks very abstract, but also kind of interesting, in my opinion. I'm going to be very interested to see what this is going to look like when it comes out. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm not super into open world games. I'm also not super into like those exploration games, but I would be willing to give this a chance. I think this would actually be in the buy category for me.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, it has, Jamie Stegmaier. I mean, just for the quality of components, you're going to get a good game there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he tends to put a lot of love into all his board games that he has designed. So I don't think you can go wrong with it. For me, I think it's going to be wait for the homie to get it. Only because I have so many games that are kind of like this already. In fact, Oridia is just like sitting on my shelf staring at me angrily that I haven't even taken it out of the shrink wrap.
Off the shelf next pod, I bet, right?
Yeah, for me, I think it's going to be wait for a homie to get it, and if they do, then maybe I'll get a chance to play it like that. But yeah, it's definitely a wait for me.
Bro, for me, it's a buy, dude. I'm already as locked in as I can be. I'm on the mailing list, so they let me know when it's ready to go. Jamie posted a gameplay video on his YouTube, like it's on his channel, and I was watching a good chunk of that. It should be spoiler free because he said it's a card that won't actually be in the game, but he was giving an example. And I was like, oh, I'm getting like heavy, like Sleeping Gods, Time Stories vibes from this, where like you're kind of all working separately, you're like on a different part of the board. Time Stories, you can do this a little bit, but you can still like assist people a little bit from like far away. Everyone has like different powers. So yeah, I'm super interested in it. I'm gonna be a day one simp.
Day one simp for Vantage.
There's my homies. Guess I'll be playing y'all's copy.
We got you, fam.
We got you. All right, so moving on down the train, we now have Cyclades, the Legendary Edition. So, in Cyclades, the Legendary Edition, designers have reworked the Cyclades base game and its many expansions to make gameplay not only more dynamic, but more streamlined. So, the game features a strategic bidding system that defines the actions available to each player on their turn. You got to balance your finances to really optimize those actions provided by the different gods, with each player gaining support of only one god each turn. So the Legendary Edition features 3 new game configurations. So there's Classic Mode, which is what's implemented in the previous game, which is the 3 to 5 player, and which you got to defend your own turf. Then you have a Team Mode for 4 to 6 players, in which you play in 2 teams of 2, cooperating with another player to both defend y'all's your turf. So I read up on a little bit of Cyclades, but I know that it combines auctioning with area control. I'm not like a huge fan of auction games, but I mean, your boy's an area control fiend. So for the Legendary Edition, especially since it's streamlined, I probably would put this on my math trade list. Like, I'd love to get it, but I'm not spending top dollar for it.
Yeah. So I have actually played Cyclades the original. This is a re-implementation of Cyclades. And I think it's been probably like 15 years since I last played this. But I remember it was a really good design, and it was a lot of fun. It's actually designed by Bruno Cathala. He has some heaters that he's done, King Domino, Queen Domino.
Seven Wonders Duel, collab.
Yeah, Shadows over Camelot as well. So he definitely knows what he's doing. And when I played it, it was really, really fun. But the thing with Cyclades Legendary Edition is, it's just like I'm getting tired of these re-implementations where like it's the same game, but they're just like making it more expensive by throwing like higher quality miniatures, just making it bigger for no reason. It's just like, I don't know, it's kind of like exhausting almost. So like for me, I'm gonna just let a homie buy it, and even if a homie doesn't buy it, I think I'd be okay with it. So yeah, because I'm happy playing just the original Cyclades personally. But yeah, that's me.
Yeah, I'm waiting for a homie to buy it as well, because I haven't played Cyclades, but I always hear people talk about it. Not necessarily like glowing terms or anything like that, but it just seems like one of those games in like board game history that like, all the old heads seem to know. It just seems like, it's like when you hear about a classic film a lot and you're like, I should watch that one day. That's kind of how I feel about Cyclades, but I mean, it comes from Bruno Cathala, who's made a lot of like games that are pretty popular. But I'm just like, I mean, I'm not like crazy about like Five Tribes or or King Domino. They're not like
Bro, seven Wonders Duel.
yeah.
Dude?
Well, I
Come
mean,
on.
that's a collab with Antoine Bowser, so it's just it's heat. But I'm just like, I mean, it's cool. Like, I'll definitely check it out if a homie gets it.
Fair.
I feel that. And that is the or the legendary edition of Cyclades. So, I mean, Tone, I know you said you hated when people re-implement old games into like deluxe new versions. So you're gonna love Nippon Zaibatsu, which is a deluxe re-implementation of an
Let's
old
go.
game.
Bye.
Uh,
So Nippon Zaibatsu is the new edition, the new and improved edition of Nippon, which is the fast-paced area majority economic game. So during the game, players invest in new tech, build factories and railroads, and produce goods to saturate local markets and fulfill contracts. They grow their influence and power, and they're trying to become the rulers of the new modernized Japanese country. So it boasts some really, really flexible play styles and winning strategies. You get to choose how you score victory points. You get to dictate how the game's pace goes with income turns. And you're also racing to get the most like beneficial factories, markets, bonuses, and all that good jazz. So it's weird because when I look at this game, it just looks like a more microeconomic version of Yokohama. And I thought
mm,
Yokohama was like I'm normally not a travel and get economic kind of game, so this is probably more in line with what I would actually like to play, where it's like you're literally building the nuts and bolts of your economy, and your engine is everything you're doing with your engine isn't luck based, it's not card based, it's just like this is what I want to design my engine to do, and hopefully it can do it. Now, granted, I'm naturally against games that you have to build like railroads for, but this would be a game that I would wait for the homie to get just so I can play it and spend like 6 hours building an engine and running an economy. Because area majority love those type of games, and I always love a good economic building game. But this is
yeah.
a wait for the homies.
Okay. For me, I just got done saying that I'm getting tired of all these reimplementations. But they're using the cocoa melon brain rot colors.
This
Gotta get it
guy.
just for that. Gotta get it just for that. No, but honestly, also they are using double-sided player boards, and I love that. I love it when
Ooh.
the resources go into the double-sided
Or
player
the dual
boards.
layer when they just slot right in there.
Slide right in.
And another thing I just want to point out, I was looking at the BGG Nippon, like the reimplementation page, and they have it like a new direct link next to the add to collection button, called Visit This Project, that takes you straight to their Kickstarter campaign. So I thought that they must maybe BGG starting a collab with Kickstarter, because like it is literally a direct link to the Nippon campaign.
Which is good. It makes sense.
Yeah, but I do want to look a little more into this campaign just because it looks interesting. I probably won't back it though because tariffs, but I think this is probably one that I would be willing to math trade for. I the cam or I'm sorry, the strategy kind of looks interesting based off of what I read in the campaign, and it looks like they've put some good quality into it as well. So I think for me this is gonna be a math trade.
Well, for me, I'm gonna go wait for the homie, cause well, I think one thing y'all should do is if you are thinking about it, you should check out Nippon on BGA, cause I've played it on there before, and I was like, okay, it's kind of like it's like kind of heavy, but at the same time, like there's only so many spaces on the board, so it gets like kind of, it gets like a little bit crowded, but like there's not. I don't know. I didn't feel like there was a ton of choice, but it was kind of like like a tight economy game. But I would say, like looking at it, I'd probably rather get my hands on something like Carnegie, which is also going to have
I
like
see.
super nice, Ian O'Toole art. It's also like an economic game. Um,
Dual player boards?
I think so, actually. It's got like a feature where like something slides out of the board. So there's definitely some fancy stuff going on. So yeah, it would be a wait for the homie to buy. I played it on BGA, the original, and I was like, that's cool, but like we didn't like immediately start up a new game after we finished. So I'm in the wait camp.
Okay, so I've changed my mind. I own Carnegie, the Kickstarter version, so I will also wait for the homie to get it if Carnegie is a better version, according to Victor.
I mean, they're not that closely related, like gameplay wise, but if you're just going for the Cocoa Melon colors, Carnegie's also a economy game with insanely beautiful colors.
Cocoa Melon, I love it. All
Cocoa
right.
Melon's crazy. But all right, to round off the list, so we were talking about things that were either coming in. So like I know Vantage comes in, I think in mid-May or like in the summer. So like you can get your hands on that, and the other two are like gonna come out either later this year or early next year. But let's talk about something that's hot on the list and it can be easily obtained like right now. So this is Harmonies. So in Harmonies, you're going to be building landscapes by placing colorful tiles and tokens to create habitats for your animals. Turn the most points to win the game. You got to incorporate the habitats in your landscape wisely and have as many animals as you can settle there. So it is basically one of those like party games, or not party games, but it's one of those like puzzle games where you have a finite amount of space on your own player board, and you have to Tetris in all of these set amount of circles and discs, and they have to be like certain heights, and they have to be surrounded by certain things to be able to place certain animals. So I played this. One of the homies has a copy, so spoiler alert: this is going to be a W for me because the homie already has it. And it's also a game that like puzzle games just don't click to me. I don't particularly like them too much, but it is a good. I feel like this is one of those games where I was like, this is a good gateway game because this would lead you into like Search for Lost Species or like any of the games where it's like you have to use a little bit of deduction. I also could see this gatewaying you into Arc Nova, where you have to like you have your animal habitat and you have to like put tiles, and they could be the same tiles or different tiles into an enclosed space to actually score points. So Harmonies, in my opinion, is a fat W. I'm gonna wait for the homie to get it because he's already got it. What about y'all?
Yeah, I mean everything you said, I think I feel the same way. Abstract games like this one, like I feel like I'm just not like super into abstract games, and I feel like I've played this one actually plenty of times on BGA. So I think I'm happy with BGA, to be honest. So if a homie gets it, I'd be more than willing to play it, even teach it, because I've played it enough times on there that I can teach it probably. But yeah, definitely one that can just hold off for me.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the edge. I'm probably in wait for it mode, but I'm edging towards math trade for it. Cause yeah, I played this one on BGA, and it looks really nice on BGA, but like I'm sure in real life it's gonna feel a lot better. Feeling the pieces, like the art looks amazing, and I really like the puzzle of it. Actually, I'm definitely a puzzler kind of boy. But I think the only thing for me is that like I have Cascadia, I have Verdant, so I'm kind of like, I don't know if I necessarily need it. Also, have Acropolis, which is maybe like a simpler version of this. So I'm just like, damn, it's a lot of niches that I'm into, but I already have games that kind of like scratch the itch a little bit. So,
Yeah.
But I think it's really good. I really like the puzzle of it, and I like playing it on BGA. But
See, I thought Acropolis is the better game between the Harmonies and it.
yeah,
I actually enjoy Acropolis, the strategy, a lot more, to be honest.
yeah, I think Acropolis is a little bit more pleasing. This one, like, I think it can be a little harder to like I don't know. It's like a little bit more complex, but a little bit more random at the same time. So yeah, Acropolis, I guess there's kind of like some fewer variables, so you can strategize a little bit more. But yeah, it kind of scratches the itch, even though I think this one looks a little nicer. I'm in strong weight weekly math rating.
Now, I want to leave the listeners with one last question, and make sure you comment and let us know. Maybe we'll feature you on our next show.
Mailbag.
But what are some of your filler games that we might have missed? Let us know.
We'll shout y'all out. Better give us heat.
Thanks for tuning in to We Are Bored Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the episode and found a little inspiration for your next game night. For more board game content and episode show notes, visit our website, wabpod.com, where you'll find everything you need, including updates and more. Don't forget to check out our YouTube channel, We Are Bored, for reviews, playthroughs, and extra content. You can also connect with us on Instagram at We Are Bored for updates, behind-the-scenes fun, and all the board game eye candy you can handle. Until next time, keep playing, keep exploring, and remember, every roll, deal, and turn tells a story. What's yours?